Welcome, YouTube. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the 11th edition of the Home Theater Hub. We really appreciate you guys joining us every single week here on Thursdays, 9:30 Eastern Time, 8:30 Central. Thank you guys so much for joining us every single week. I got my host, Mr. Ike, in the house. What's going on, Mr. Ike? How are you?
What's up? I'm doing good. How about you?
Just feeling it through the week, right? I've been a little under the weather, so
Oh,
um, family's been under the weather. Wife is sick. Kid was
oh,
sick. Yeah, kid had to get some shots today too. So that's been fun. 4-year-old shots, So they wanted to spruce him up with like four of them today. So they thought he was a pincushion. So,
oh.
ooh, yeah. So he was a little cranky this evening, but luckily he passed out with prior to the show. So I think we should be uninterrupted here. So how about
Yeah,
yourself? What's going on with you?
it's probably the crazy weather, man. It's been crazy with the change of weather, rain, and all that, the cold and everything. So it's probably not helping the kids out. I think we had
Yeah,
our own bout of sickness last week, but everyone is doing fine, doing
that's
good.
great.
Looking
That's
forward to another show tonight.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So if you guys haven't subscribed to Ike's channel, please make sure to go ahead and subscribe to Easy HT Tech on YouTube. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please go ahead over to Horizon Home Theater and give us a subscribe and a like for these hard working gentlemen here trying to give you some good content, some entertainment. So Ike, we got a panel of guests tonight again, right?
Yep, yes we do. And we got a special guest also. And we have some returning fellers.
Yes,
Who
yes, we do.
Yep.
Why don't you bring up those lovely gentlemen so we can introduce everybody?
Okay. Yes, yes, yes. And everyone is
So,
live. And
so back for more punishment. We got Mr. Paul as usual. Yeah, what's going on, Paul? How are you, sir? Paul's going to have to be
Good,
like
good.
the third host. So we just have to make a third screen for him to be a host
Someone,
and just
someone has to keep you straight,
the the chal-
yeah,
the
tell you when
exactly.
challenge
you
is you
gotta.
never know Paul is going to show up until 15 seconds before you go live, which is
Oh,
exactly
come
what just
on.
happened.
That's I
Hey,
give at
that's
least
all good,
10
man.
seconds.
It don't matter when you get here, just get here, right? I sent an invite out to Chuck. I sent an invite out to Fred. So if they show up, they show up. That's great. That's what this whole experience is supposed to be about. Just pop in, pop out whenever you want. Once we introduce you, the first time and people get to know you, just hop on in. You guys got the link. You don't need permission. Come on and hop in. As a matter of fact, if you would like to be a member of the show, we actually got an email the other day, and we'll be reaching back out to that particular person. But if you'd like to be a guest on the show, please email us at hometheaterhublive@gmail.com. Once again, that's hometheaterhublive@gmail.com. Mr. Scott, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well. Glad to be here yet again. Second one.
Hey, man.
Thanks for having me
Thanks.
on again. Excited to be
Two in a
here.
row. Two in
Had a
a
great
row,
show
man.
last week, and curious to see where things are going to go tonight.
Yeah,
Kelvin, glad to
absolutely.
see you on as well. And what was that,
I don't
bud?
like to plan much, so the only thing that we try to plan is the guest. But if wherever the conversation takes us, wherever we decide to wander off into tangents on, that's perfectly fine with me and Ike. Ike, is your camera something's going on with your camera, sir?
Yes,
Uh,
I think I just lost my feet. Let me get it back.
no
We got
problem,
a
no
we got a
problem.
good guest tonight. I like this guy.
We
He's a
got
he's a
Mr.
cool dude.
Calvin in the house. Mr. Calvin, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on. We talk a
Yeah,
lot
no,
up in the different group chats and everything, so it is good to be on tonight.
yeah, absolutely. We enjoy. Well, hopefully, you'll enjoy your time here with us. And we Calvin and all of us actually met in the home theater hi-fi after show. So please make sure that you or the hi-fi after show. Please make sure that you guys go ahead and subscribe over there to Chana, Joe and Tel, and Aaron's the Daily Hi-Fi Show over there. Make sure you subscribe to their channel and become a Patreon for the after show. It winds up becoming a chit chat session just like this, where we can talk about anything from kids being sick to audio, right? So, you know,
Oh yes.
but yeah, no. So Calvin, give us a little bit of back history about yourself. What put you into this hobby? How'd you get started?
Well, growing up, I always enjoyed music. Town I'm from, just from the country, and I always enjoyed cars and having car systems. So, growing up when I was in school, ninth grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, we're, changing our radios, changing our speakers, subwoofers, everything. So I progressed and go to college and still doing a lot of the same stuff. As an adult, start doing a lot of the same stuff, but eventually it gets to a point to where nowadays cars are so good, they already sound like really, really good. Most of them that you buy now, and I don't, you don't really spend a whole bunch of time driving now. At least I don't. So it was just, well, what is the next way that I can be able to enjoy music like that? And so I dabbled into home theater starting, I think, like 2015, 2016, somewhere around there. It's when I really first started to kind of dive into it. And it's funny because back then I went on AVS Forum, and my first post was something to the extent of, I'm trying to build a cheap system that is still really, really good, right? And so, of course, everybody came after me saying that, oh, see, you're already looking at it wrong, cheap, cheap, this type of stuff. But I eventually found my way. At the time, Fry's, it was open, and I found some Polk speakers that were really, really good. At least I thought they were. And I built my first system, which was like a 5-channel setup. There was no type of like ceiling speakers or height speakers, and I really enjoyed it. I laughed because I had a little Polk sub. The room was small. The room was probably about I would say it was maybe 9 by 11 room. It was really small, and that one little poke sub in that room with all of that room gain sound really, really good, to me. And so that was my start. And since then, I have learned a lot through various forums, YouTube videos, etc., and just taking a lot of knowledge I learned from the car world and using that within the home world, along with everything that I'm currently learning now.
That I think that car audio has brought a lot of us into this hobby. I know Paul that you kind of got your start that way, correct? I know that I did. I got into the whole sawing my back seat out and putting two 15-inch Rockford Fosgates going
Hmm.
right into the back of my head,
Yep.
and
The
then
fanciest I went whenever I was younger with my home audio was I had a Panasonic quadraphonic sound system with an 8-track player. I did eventually get a CD player, but it was like one of those little portable ones with headphone jacks. But that was about as fancy as I got with home, but and that wasn't very fancy. But my car eventually had extant amps, and if anybody knows that brand, it was like one of the top tier. You had like resistor modules you placed in it to make it uh, crossover different,
right.
instead of just doing dials and stuff like that. And then I had JL audio and double aught gauge, speaker wires, 185 amp. At the time, it seemed like a lot. 185 amp, like, or 220, something like that, cranking amp alternator that was rewound to be able to handle because you got to the point to where whenever your stereo was going, it could literally kill your car at stoplights because it was pulling too much amperage.
Yeah.
It got that.
You had the
That
extra
fun
batteries in the
until,
back and all that stuff, right?
yeah, I didn't have but one. A lot of people had
Okay.
like rows of, and
Hmm.
the only reason I had that is for isolation whenever I was listening to it at parking lots or whatever, because you'd always show it off. And if you didn't have that, you weren't going home. You needed
Yeah,
that
exactly.
isolator because it took about, stereo would still play, but it would kill that car battery to where you wouldn't be able to start the engine. So,
Hmm.
Yeah,
Not
I
only
had the
did
two.
everyone hear your stereo, but they saw the lights at the same
yeah,
time going to the beat.
I saw
Hmm.
yes, yes.
They were
That was
dimming,
always,
right?
oh, yeah, until they went
Mhm.
all the way off. That's, I got to that point and I was like, oh, I didn't know
You
that
ever
was a thing.
played? You ever played your stereo so long in your car that your battery died? And you just
Yep.
get stuck there. I've done that
Yeah.
before, man.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Many, many days.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. No, I've done that plenty of times. I had the two 15-inch Rockford Fosgates, and I had the Phoenix Gold amp. I put the Altex landing separates. I had like six tweeters and six eights in the doors, and then I had four or six 6x9s in the deck. I built the where the seat was. I built like a platform for it and actually made like a box for the 6x9s.
Hmm.
And yeah, it was pretty fun, the car audio days. But and then you grow up and you get out of doing some of that stuff, right? And then you move into Atmos and home theater stuff.
Yeah.
That's
I
that
Just
that
drove,
when you
was
I,
thought car audio was expensive, then you hop
yeah,
over to one
oh,
that's
yeah,
good.
it's nothing compared to home audio.
Yep.
I
yeah.
literally have, as I was getting out of it, I just bought like all Kenwood because I wanted matchy stuff. I
Yep.
still have a Kenwood Exelon like 900 or 800 watt RMS amp at 4 ohms that I have never powered on.
No
Oh
kidding.
wow.
That was like my last, like, I went on I don't know what happened. I've just
I think I still
literally have
have. Do you
never.
remember the Brandy clips? They
Mm-hmm.
made head
Yep.
units.
Yep.
Yeah, I think I still have that thing sitting in the garage somewhere.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, those were
The
But I
big
remember I
those
was
were
so
pretty
proud
good.
of getting that thing.
Yeah.
the big
Yep.
thing for us was Alpine. They made like
Yeah,
Yeah.
the
Alpine.
screens that came up and folded up and
Yeah.
all kind of stuff like that. And my error was like the detachable face error when you took the face off of the receiver so nobody would steal it. Because I tell
Hmm.
you what, you play your stereo loud, people follow you
They
home.
coming for you.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. I had somebody set my alarm off like 13 times one night. Just kept setting it off,
Mhm.
and I refused to turn it off. Refused to turn it off, and my neighbors were yelling, "Turn that damn alarm off!" And somebody would just come by and hit it just to set it off, just to piss you off enough that you turn it off. Guess what? I
Hmm.
turned it off. My stuff went missing.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, they crowbarred the trunk. Took my gooseneck. I had the gooseneck graphic EQ. Took all that stuff, man. It was yeah, it was a good hobby, but it also could get you into some trouble too, So,
Oh
Yep.
yeah. Oh yeah.
but so so car audio kind of led you to uh, home theater. So, how long have you had a home theater, and when did you actually start getting into this, and what was like one of your first systems, Calvin?
I would say my first system I had was an early like the sound bar type of setup. I want to say it was just a sound bar. It was like an 8-inch sub. And I kept thinking to myself, like, I can take some car stuff and do a whole lot better,
Hmm.
than this. So I was thinking about, okay, how can I hook up an actual car amp to the house? And I'm looking at all of this stuff from an AC to DC converter, et cetera, et cetera. At this time, like I'm not even realizing that they already sold all this stuff for like for the house. So if I wanted to go with a passive sub setup, that they already made amps for it. So I kind of started looking at, okay, we bought a house up at the time and it was a small room. So I said, well, let me just take a step back and just see what is available that I can do within my budget up at the time. And that's when I went to Fry's. At the time, I was a really big Fry's fan. Fry's would send out that little newsletter every single week, and it would have all the deals they had going on for the week. And so that's when I found the forums, and they were saying, okay, you got to get an AV receiver as your processor, which would be the equivalent of like your radio if it was the car world, right? So I said, okay, well, let me get a receiver. So I got a receiver. And then from there, I bought two tower speakers that were from Fry's. And then on Craigslist, at the time, Craigslist was popular then. And so I went on Craigslist and I found my center channel and I found my surround setup. And I think all in, I was probably all in for what I felt like was a pretty good system, probably like $800, $900, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
And that system really, really did rock. And then I sold that house and moved into a apartment, maybe 3 or 4 years later, or right at 3 years later. And I took that same system with me, had a nice little living room set up. And that's when I started to hear about, Atmos, to kind of look into it. But at the time I was in an actual rental, so I didn't really want to go through trying to place things and like that, as far as that go into the rental. So we was gonna build a new house, and so I said, okay, this time I want to do just a purposely built room for the most part, as much as the builder would let you do, because it wasn't like a true custom home. There still were certain constraints and things that I would have liked to have done, but the builders, they're like, oh no, we can't do this, or we can't do stagger stuff because our guys just want to go in there. They want to put up they want to put up the studs and do, this, and this. So
Right.
some
Right.
things they were able to work with me on. Some things they were like, nah, we're not going to do that. We don't have time for it. So I was like, okay, well, I thought then, like, okay, well, I'm just going to get as much as I can get now, but maybe later on down the road, I can build a room the way that I really, really want to build it. So
Yeah, that's
from
Texas
there,
builders for you, man. They're just difficult to work with, man. You got to get like a custom home builders to
mhm,
get any type of flexibility, man.
yes. And so I was able to kind of come in. So since I was working from home, I would show up there like every day. I show up. So the electrician would be there and wiring. I would talk to him and say, "Hey man, you mind doing this, and this for me? I can like pay you." Okay, cool. So I was able to get some things done outside of the building by working directly with, like with the actual sub. And so um, it took forever, like for the house to be built. We signed up in 2020, like November 2020, and we didn't break ground until like 8 months later or something. That was like some crazy figure, like 8 or 9 months later before they actually broke ground. And then from there, it took roughly another year and a half for them to build it. So it took right at 2 years to build it. And so
Wow.
the part that sucks about that is that I found one system that I said, okay, this is going to be the best system ever, right? It was a Miller and Kressel um, bed layer system, which I still have and I need to sell. But I bought that system and was like, okay, this is going to be it, right? Then I found Daily Hi-Fi, I found Aaron, I found measurements, I found this whole different world of, because up until then it was just looking at people on YouTube and hearing someone say, oh, that this sounds great, or someone on the
Right.
forum say, oh, that this sounds great, but not really knowing what does this sound great. And then what I realized was that a lot of people, this is what sounds great, just translates to how much something costs. Like the more it costs, the better that it sounds versus like how good is the directivity, how good of dispersion does the actual speaker have, things like that. And so I was still pretty good with my Kelp. I mean, with the Miller and Crescent system, and that's what I was going to go with. But then I found a deal on the KEF system. So the KEF in walls, I was able to, someone was on the forum on ABS and they were selling pretty much the left, right, and center channel and the Atmos speakers. So the deal was too good to pass up. So I bought those because I was thinking about, well, maybe I want to go with a more sleek setup or more just in wall. but something that was still good. You know, a lot of people think in walls that they don't sound good, but if you buy the right in walls, they'll definitely sound good. And there's some benefits to going in wall versus in room too, just from a performance metrics. And so I got that, and then just being patient. You know what I'm saying? Like how they say like do not force it, let the game come to you. So that's what I did. I just
Right.
kept looking, and then I would find a deal on eBay. I would find a deal on Accessories for Less. Accessories for Less, like they're a beast. They're one of my favorite websites. Like they be having some really good deals on
I've
there.
been
Like they got
stuck
a
on there
deal
for
right
hours,
now.
just looking
Your
at like
web
random
browser just
stuff.
opens up to that now.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
It's the
Like
default page.
like Google, because Google, like if you use the Google app a lot, like the stuff that you go to a lot and look for, and when you wake up the next morning, it'll just refresh and like, oh, did you
Yep.
see this? Did you see that? So, I just they be getting me as far as marketing goes. So, but I finally got everything that I wanted, and then now the next thing was just getting it all put in. So when we moved into the home, my wife had a lot of things she wanted done, a lot of things around the house and projects and stuff. So the theater kind of took a back seat. So it wasn't until maybe 5 months ago or so before I just really got around to being able to put everything in. And so got everything in, ordered some amps. So I went with the Buckeye amps. So I have Buckeyes, I think it's the 500 or NC 500 and the NC 252. So the NC 500 puts out at 4 ohms, like 450 watts, and at 8 ohms, like 250, somewhere around
Did
there.
you do
And
the
the two,
Purify modules for those? The Purify modules?
no, I think it's called the NC, if I'm not mistaken. I think, yeah,
Yeah.
like it's just their base module because I mean, the Senate and everything is really good with those two, and I'm not like pushing speakers that need a ton of current, and I'm
Hmm.
not trying to, I feel like if it was a pure two-channel setup, and maybe if I had like some Kef reference speakers or some Blaze or something, then yeah, maybe I would go for an amp like that. But in an Atmos or in a surround system, I don't think that you have to really go to that level. But I
Right.
don't knock anybody who does because I mean the prices that Buckeye have are extremely reasonable
Hmm.
compared to the market for those same type of products, same modules. So I've
Yeah,
been extremely.
I just watched them. I forgot which channel it was on. Might have been Friday, one of the Friday nights on the Living with Scott and Cat channel.
Mhm.
He had the guy from Buckeye, and I mean, man, I just a one man show. Well, a
Yeah.
one man show
Like
putting
Dylan
everything
or something
together.
like that, isn't his name?
Yeah,
Dylan?
yeah. So
Dylan?
Mhm.
he's got me really looking at those amplifiers that he's putting out because like I mean I have the Emotiva DR3 and the 5 and the 7 to run mine, and I am looking for something with a little less with a lower noise floor, and
Mhm.
I have the Lindorf processor, and I was thinking about matching it up because the MX8 is now for sale. They've announced this like 2 years ago that it was coming out, and the thing runs so efficient that there's no fans inside of it. There's
Mhm.
not one fan. And I was reading on the website what type of they use the Purify modules. So the Buckeyes using the same exact thing as Lindorf is using, if I'm not mistaken. Just from what I read, I could be incorrect, but from what I understand, they're using the Purify modules. So, you know, that's what made me ask you about those modules. I'm starting to really dive into these Buckeye amps a little bit. So I think you got yourself a good buy there. A good product. Chuck, you welcome to the show. Welcome to the show, Chuck. How are you?
Good, good. How you guys doing?
Thanks for
Oh,
joining us again. Appreciate you.
oh, no
Good to
problem.
see you on
I
here.
have those Buckeye
You
amps too, actually.
yeah, that's
And
what
he
I
has
was going to
like
go
you
to you
said, he
about.
has the NC. I think he has the 502s and the 552s, and then he also has the Purify. So you can choose, and
Mhm.
also you can put different. Like I got two 8-channel ones. One of my 8 channels I have the four higher current modules. Like, I'm not sure if they're 350 or 350 watts per channel. And then the other four in the same box are the 150 per channel. So your front stage can run on 3 of them, and the
And
other,
the other
yeah,
Mhm.
channels, nice.
the other channels can run on the lesser current. And it's not a big difference in price. I think it's like an extra $100 to get
Oh,
Hmm.
the 4 higher current modules put in there. You can't beat that.
Yeah, a
So
lot of his stuff, like for instance, a lot of like his purify model. I want to say that a two-channel purifier is probably around. I think it may be around 1,100, 1,200 bucks somewhere around there. There are a lot of people, a lot of companies that are charging like $3,000, $4,000 for the exact same thing. The case may look different. It may be a little bit fancier. It may have a name by it, but it's the same thing. So it's like,
right,
unless I understand a lot of people, they like to show their stuff, their equipment. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I feel like in my case, like all of my stuff is in a closet. So it's like, I mean, no one performance over that look, and I like that it has just um, a really sleek look to it. So
Yeah,
the Encore is the baseline, which is it is a really good product.
right, right. Yeah, and even he said, on that interview, that look, you don't necessarily have to go to these purifies. They're just above and beyond. He said
Hmm.
the other ones will definitely perform just as well. But if you just looking for the absolute best that he offers, to go with the purify. So
It's
I'm a big fan
interesting.
of
Oh, go ahead, Don.
I'm I'm a big fan of what he's doing over there. Running this out of his house. I'd love to have him on the show, kind of just to talk about the amps, because I know um, a lot of people are, switching their amplifiers and going to this type of amplifier. Scott, that can you pull that back up one more time, Ike? I think
yep.
there's a HypeX
Yeah, so I was just
module in
bringing
there.
that up.
Yeah, so the Encore has Hypex modules. The Encore X is the latest, so that's like that's Hypex version of the Purify. Essentially, they're trying to compete with the Purify when it comes to an actual noise floor, current, synad, all of that kind of stuff. So if you wanted to go for the best of the best, you can either go with the Hypex N Core X or the Purify module.
Sorry, I switched that. I was trying to get to this because there's actually some news that Scott made me aware of that he's going to speak on about HypeX. Can you share my screen again? Scott, what was this that you saw about HypeX here?
So it looks like Hypex and NAND Technologies, I believe the name is. It looks like they've kind of partnered up and have created a new module, the NCX 500, and they call it an OEM module. So maybe we'll start seeing this in some of the amplifiers coming up. Um, the supposedly it's going to appear in Barcelona. The Hypex team is supposed to give more details about it at that time, but it looks like it's going to be this module can be used as a 4x250 or 2x500 watt, and then it can do what's called a parallel bridge tied load and do a 1x1000 watt. So, and it can drive
Wow.
anywhere between a 2 ohm, 4 ohm, 8 ohm, and even like the high voltage commercial speakers. So it's kind of interesting news, and I'll be curious to see who potentially integrates that into their new amplifiers for home theater.
So I wonder if you'd be able to power this on a subwoofer, 1,000 watts.
Yeah, that's crazy, man.
I would assume
Yeah.
that is probably what that is for, or some kind of
Right.
commercial application.
Hmm.
Yeah, that looks interesting. Um,
And it can go down to 2 ohms.
New technology coming out. So thanks for bringing that to them. right? Because I had a system set up in my living room, so I used them at that time, but um, not not as much as one should have been using them for the past 3 years, Paul. As you know, the theater's still not done yet, but but I am making progress. I'm making some.
Ready to
Quickly
chime in,
to
but he froze.
I know. I had to cut him off.
Yeah,
we
you
are
can't.
done.
You can cut me off, but I'll always come back like a splinter.
It's just
Speaking of,
amazing how quick the amplifier technology in the Class D digital world is kind of coming along. Or those highly efficient modules. It's definitely changed the game in home theater. That's for sure.
yeah, definitely.
I'm pretty sure Ryan's gonna end up with that new module.
Yeah, probably
Yep.
so. You're right. You're right.
It might come out early enough for Don to also integrate it into the home theater. So
it very well could. It very well could. I'm definitely looking. I'm going to do it different this time because, like I said, I have the DR3. I'd love to put 3 of those 1,000 watt modules to run the front stage for 1
The
amp.
Purifier, I want to say that the Purifier put out like 700 some odd watts at
Yeah, so
roughly
the
4 ohm.
DR3 right now does 600 or 650 for to a 4 ohm load, which is what my speakers are. So, it'll look, wattage isn't everything, because
Hmm.
for every 3 dB you got to double it, right? You got to double the
Hmm.
wattage. So, I mean, if you're at 300 watts, just to get 3 more dB, you need to go to 600 watts. You know what I'm saying? So it's it can fool you, the wattage very easily because it's incrementals and you doubling
Yeah,
for 3
yeah,
dB louder.
yeah. The higher you go, the more you need to increase. Like because
Mm-hmm.
with subs, especially with big subs that can take a whole bunch of power, if I'm at 2,000 watts, I'm at whatever I'm at. Let's say I'm at 115 dB or 120 some dBs. I got to go to 4,000 to gain 3 more, right? So, um, and that's why, like with the big subwoofers and stuff, like to really see them sing, like you really got to have a whole bunch of power. But starting off, that number, it looks a whole lot better. Like, you go from, I have a calculator on my phone that's pretty good, but you go like up until I think roughly like 180 or 200 watts, it's pretty decent. Then from there, you
Mm-hmm.
start to having to double up, double up, double up, and the
Right,
numbers
right.
they start to get big. So like you said, there's no difference a lot of times between 600 or 800 because you're not really gaining much. So it sounds like you have a pretty powerful amp from there just to go off of if you having problems with hiss or it's getting super hot or something similar
Right,
to that.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna live with mine for a little bit first before I go and change or do anything like that. I at least want to enjoy them for a couple months before I decide to, maybe part ways with them, or maybe I can get a sample or a review model in just to see if I can hear a difference between them. Amplifiers, you usually don't hear a lot of difference unless they're tubes,
Hmm.
that add sound to them or add color to them sometimes. But
Hmm.
you know, the where you hear the difference is the noise floor, right? How quiet they are, like you said, the hiss and everything else like that. So Chuck, what about you? Did you notice because you had the parasounds prior, correct?
Correct, yeah. And I can't say that I've noticed a big difference, you know. Now, granted, I did change my whole system around. My paradigms, I was, facing a different direction. I didn't have the same setup. I put in a whole new setup and then changed.
Right.
But still, all in all, I didn't notice anything different, to be honest with you.
Okay.
And another thing about changing so fast,
Except for
sometimes,
heat, right?
Yeah, definitely the heat, and that's why I changed.
Yeah.
But another thing I said I'm gonna try not to do. Sometimes, like you say, you have amps already. You buy another set of amps, another set of amps. Sometimes that same money can go towards something you don't have at the moment.
Right.
So instead of using that money constantly changing the same thing, start thinking about stuff you don't have, whether it's treatments, acoustical treatments or whatever, and that's what I've been trying to focus on is not rebuying something I already have before I buy something that I actually want later down the line, just
Right.
keep that money, and get that instead,
Yeah, that's good
I definitely
advice.
agree with that.
That's good advice. You're always going to be chasing something in this hobby, right? You're chasing to upgrade your speakers or whatever. The biggest key that I've taken away from a lot of the like a Matthew Pose or an Anthony Gamatti is make sure you treat your room to the fullest before you start messing with your speakers, right? And then when you find flaws in your speakers, then you know then you start looking for the upgrades, right? Same thing. I had we started a Facebook chat, and one of the for the home theater hub. If you'd like to join that, just send us an email and we'll put you on in this chat. We talk about everything on there. Um, it's just through Facebook Messenger, and one of the guys was on there, and they were talking about what would you get first, a lens or a processor, a video processor, and you know, we basically told them neither. Are you having an issue with your projector? Do you feel that your projector is not putting out enough light? Right. So if you feel that way, then a lens will help. If you're seeing blacks being crushed or colors, not being processed right, then you have the need for the processor, right? So the biggest thing is that I've taken from a lot of people is just, you know, don't don't look to replace stuff until you actually find a problem. Would you guys agree with that?
Yep.
Oh yeah,
Oh
for
yeah.
sure. I
I
know.
agree with that in anything like YouTubing. People want to go out and spend like, oh, I can't do that because I don't have $10,000 to buy on a camera or whatever. It's like,
Right.
dude, just start doing it with your phone. What you have in your hand, and until you literally exhaust or realize, oh, I need this, or you run out of time and it's like, hey, my workflow needs to increase in speed, so I need this. You don't
Hmm.
need something that will crush a 4K transcode in 10 minutes unless you're producing 5 videos a day. And
Right.
that's Linus Tech Tips type of thing, not a
R-
you know not a starting
Exactly.
YouTube channel. You start until because then you learn in all of this stuff. And I know people say buy once, cry once, buy up, but there is something to be said about getting into it in a small scale to where you're learning. And if you can make the cheaper stuff sound really good by learning room treatment, placement better, basic EQing and stuff like that, you're going to be like, "Oh, okay, so now you can, with more knowledge, you can make more expensive stuff sound even better." Because I guarantee you there's people out there, they'll go out and spend $10,000 a pair on speakers, be like, man, these sound like shit. Like, my clip sounded better or whatever than these, or just as good. And it's like, well, did you
You
treat your
could have
room? Did
spent
you place
a
them
hundred
right?
dollars on a microphone and some free software and
Right.
get
Yeah,
better sound than where you're sitting at now. So,
exactly. Yeah, you
but if
could
you
be
do
sitting in
have
a
those
worse spot.
speakers
Yeah.
and then you tag on the microphone, you
Yeah.
will, perform better. But
Yeah, because I had
um,
clips for the longest time, and I've had those sounding better than a lot of people that have way more expensive stuff than I do.
Yeah,
What did you
it was the
say?
same.
You
It was
have
the
over
same.
1,000 measurements, something like that. 1,000 measurements
Oh,
at your
well
house,
more
Paul.
than that. It's
Yeah.
well over 3,000. I have
Oh wow.
1,000 on one laptop. That's just for my own measurements.
He sleeps with one hand on the EQ and holding the mic with the other.
I create a noise cancellation so it cancels out my breathing. So I've done enough measurements where I do like a white noise type of technology on my breathing. So when I'm watching movies, it's like full cancellation of all background noise. It's like, nope, you don't even hear me breathing. So a quiet place is really good.
It eliminates the snoring for you, right?
A side
I ran
note,
that process like that.
we was watching Quiet Place the other day. Of course, I already seen it before, but I never watched it up on the system, right? So the movie starts off and it's like it's quiet, it's just going through the motions and everything. And my wife is like, "Oh yeah, this is quiet. They right. This is definitely a quiet place." And of course, she's not paying attention. She's on the phone, like normal, doing something. And so the scene where they're down in the basement and something is going on up at the top comes on,
Hmm.
and height effects just go boom, and the subs just wake up. And I mean, she almost jumped out of her seat. Uh,
Dude, yeah, that is, everybody brags about Atmos, and I mean, it's fun, but it's definitely not like. There's very few movies that I really notice, like, oh wow, it's like, oh shit, like that was something. And the original Quiet Place has a scene in there
Excellent.
where I'm just like,
Yeah.
oh wow, like that's like that
There's
was
a lot of good Atmos movies too, though. I mean, there's one. What is it called? It basically there's a bunch of voices. It's about a kid walking through the woods, and there's a bunch of voices just going off all in the
Chaos.
Atmos channel. Yeah,
Chaos.
yeah.
I
You're
heard
correct
a
on that.
lot of scary movies or horror movies are really good in Atmos, but I don't watch that genre almost
yeah, me either.
at all. So
I don't do scary movies. Nope.
yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah, I think
watched
that movie is called
Blade
Chaos
Runner,
with the guy who
Final
played
Cut.
Spider-Man, the young kid who played Spider-Man.
Mm.
That's the one you're
Hmm.
talking about.
Yeah, I think so. I'm trying to look it up on my collider because I have the way I have my thing set up is this is actually going to be a good segue to this too, because for my K word that the system that I have. I have all the demo material on there, right? And then I just because I only have a 6 terabyte, the Strato S, and I have all the demo material on there, and then I cycle through the movies that I want to that I purchase, and that way I'm not having to buy like a massive server. I think I got more movies that are on the cloud right now than I actually have on my system, which is fine.
Is that the sing-along edition, Paul?
Hell yeah, man. Comes
That's
with both.
that could be
Oh,
next
boy.
week's
If
next
you
week's
ain't
show.
singing
the sing-along.
along, you ain't no fun, and I don't want to hang with you. That's all I gotta say.
I missed that because I was looking for this darn movie title.
Oh, look,
boy.
I was
Oh,
showing
no.
off the 2 latest movies that I
Oh,
Is
okay.
that
Got
Troll?
the
That's a
troll.
There's a
cartoon.
couple that
yeah.
Well, as I was
I'll have to
scrolling
back
through
them
this,
up on my cold storage somewhere. I think I'm looking at it somewhere on here. My cold storage.
as I was scrolling through this, looking, I saw that Migration came out, so I had to press purchase on that. If you guys haven't seen that, that's an excellent kids movie, and the 3D in that. If they come out with a 3D version, it's going to be great. So the 3D in the theater was fantastic. There was a lot of scenes flying right at you. So yeah, if you haven't seen that movie, pick it up. It's a good movie for kids. So, well,
Is it a
I couldn't
cartoon?
find. Yeah, it's a cartoon movie. Yep, kids movie. So I couldn't find the. I think it's like chaos walking or something like that. I can't find it right now,
I
but
heard
it's got me
someone
got me
say,
distracted.
and I have never heard of this movie, but I heard someone say that Roma was really good with Atmos.
I heard
Have it
that as
has,
well, actually,
yeah.
and I don't
What
even
is it?
remember what the movie
I
is
don't even
about.
know what it's about, but it
Yeah,
just
I've heard the
everyone,
same
there
thing,
was multiple people saying, "Did you watch Roma? It's really good with
and I'm
Atmos."
like,
I'm like,
"What's wrong? Like, what's that? I
I'm
don't even
gonna
know what that
look.
is."
I'm gonna look.
But yeah, I heard that it was. I heard that one. Yeah, that's just it. I heard it was really good. Like, and I was like, What is that?" And I think I looked at it and I was like, "Oh, eh, eh." But I don't. I
Yeah.
don't
It's
So
remember.
about a
some of this
heart.
leads me to a question that I had. We've had a hot topic in our Facebook chat, and it's been about a NOS, buying a NOS, buying drives, and storing all your physical media. So we had one gentleman. I'm not going to name any names or whatever, but we had one gentleman go and buy like the Mac Daddy of a QNAP, and this thing was like $2,000. It's got what 16 bays or something like that. I don't know. And then it had three. Then it had three bays just for the smaller SATA drives, and it
12
was
bays, 4 bays for SSD.
yeah. So
Yeah.
16 total bays, right? And it got me thinking, right? Because look, these drives aren't cheap. If you're going to get a 20 gig drive, right now, you're probably going to spend somewhere around. I think somebody sent me a link saying that like almost $600 for two of them, right? Or maybe it was $500 for two of them. So by the time you add, you know, $500 for two drives, and you got 12 bays, so you need six. That's $3,000 just for that, right? And then you got another $2,000 just for the NOS, right? So now you're up to $5,000 for to be able to store. Yeah, and look, you got a shit ton of storage right after that, right? I understand that, but is this the right direction? That's my question to you guys. Is this the right direction to go, knowing that physical media, in my opinion, is fizzling out? Scott, what do you think about that? Do you feel that this is the right direction to go at the time, or is it still? Are we still far off from the
I
physical
think we're
media
still pretty
disappearing?
far off for them completely killing off physical media. However, we'll probably see a reduction in the availability to obtain it easily. And you're not going to be able to go down to your local Best Buy, as we all already know. They're pulling them from the shelves. But I believe that, online Amazon, online Walmart are still going to have a fairly decent collection. And it seemed right around Christmas time, right around Oppenheimer, there was another push for physical media. And we're starting to see some, uh, I guess, more of within the community, people starting to get frustrated with streaming services pulling content from them before they even get to finish. They'll be halfway through a season and they decide to pull it off off their um, interface, right? So you can't watch it anymore. So I think that physical media is going to be set to stay around, and I think there is enough demand from enthusiasts like ourselves to keep pushing that along and purchasing it. There are
Yeah.
some alternatives, as we all know. There's Kaleidoscope, and you do have, like Movies Anywhere and Apple TV and things like that.
I
But
see.
you
I
also
see what
run the
they
risk
did
with
there.
those as well. Like Sony just had I can't remember what platform was it on, like the PlayStation, where they actually pulled people's purchased movies. So
Mhm.
there's a high risk to that. So if that keeps continuing and they don't handle keeping the media content there that people have purchased, even when they purchased it as a license, they make it
Mhm.
feel like you're purchasing the movie. If they don't keep it present and they pull that away, they're going to drive more people back towards physical media. Now, it's way more convenient to have a streaming service provide it all. We can only hope
It's
that
it's
they'll
way it's
provide
way
a
more
higher
convenient. Yeah,
quality
for
audio along with it in the future too.
yeah,
So
it's way
Yeah.
more convenient for just your average consumer. You know, But
Yeah.
for those that want, the full, but let's just say there's two ways to look at it. One, just like streaming, kaleidoscope. That's our way around not having a drink. I like what Scott did there. I didn't say the word. I said something else. I was like, I saw what you did there. Literally, anyone that loves that, is in love with it, is having a great experience with it. That's amazing until they get bought out or someone buys them and just removes that all for whatever reason. And that is a big possibility. And sure, people will be like, oh, well, I can back up all my movies. Well, then you have to have 130 terabyte Terra server from them, which is not $4,000 like our friend bought. It is literally 10 times more. That's a lot more money. But at the same time, physical media, I think, will still be a thing. I think is what the industry, as far as the copyright industry, what their biggest concern is for this, because they feel like they're losing money, when in reality, the back end scene of all these pirators and stuff like that, they are actually driving more sales than not, because most people, they're not going to be committed. They're not going to be collecting. Your average consumer is just going to watch what's on. They don't care. They're watching, Love Island. They don't care about your. Sure, they may go to the movies. They may watch it if someone else buys it. But that someone else that buys it, the collector, the people that still buy movies today, those people are still going to buy media. And as soon as they come up with, which I don't know if they will, but it's possible that they'll come up with another media source, like an SD card that has a serial number with a new algorithm that you can't copy, or something like that. That could also be possible. Or let's just say they get rid of physical media altogether. Then each whatever company that makes movies, they'll have their own, hey, I sell you my movie, you have to provide your own storage. Here's a digital encrypted copy. You just have to have this device to decrypt my movies, type of deal. And we download each in decryption. And so you'll still have to, have to have storage for movies. But at the same time, they could literally, say, hey, everybody's getting 10 gig fiber. It's all streaming. But to Scott's point, that if you don't commit to something like a series or whatever, you're going to lose your audience. You're going to be jumping left to right to, one day Netflix is most popular, next day Hulu is most popular, then Discovery, then the next. You're going to have, series chasers, sure, but they're not in it for that. They want all the consumers all the time, the corporations. They don't care about anything else except for the numbers. The number.
I know, right? I only subscribe to Hulu when there's a particular show I want to watch. And once the season is over, I cancel my subscription. So it kind of makes me wonder. So would you rather have people go out and buy 10 different discs for 10 different movies versus paying $15 every month and watching the same 15 movies? So I think.
Go ahead, Chuck.
I was going to say, I just, through Don, I'm purchasing the K-Scape. And I think you can use both as far as K-Scape and your storage, and just be selective on which ones you buy on the K-Scape. But I also I think physical media the prices are skyrocketing at these local stores.
That's another thing too.
That's another thing.
Whereas K-Scape is giving you more sales, more opportunity to buy these movies at cheaper prices. Where to me, maybe Best Buy knew they were going out of business, so maybe that's why they wasn't putting them on sale like they normally, or their prices are always higher than Walmart by $5.
Somebody mentioned on here on the chat about a good Atmos mix being Gravity, right? Think about that Diamond Lux edition, right? If you
Can't
try to
find that
buy that
anywhere,
right
man.
now, it's $200 on eBay, right? Because you can't find it, right? They're not producing it.
I've been trying to
Like,
find it and I can't find
Yeah,
it.
if I saw it
yeah,
on eBay for
Kaleidoscape,
200
I have
bucks,
it.
I'll pay for it.
I have the deluxe edition.
yeah. So Kaleidoscape, it comes with the Atmos mix, right? I'm gonna say it. I'll drink. What the hell? It comes with the it comes with the Atmos edition for like $20, right? So
Hmm.
as you mentioned, Chuck, you know, as these big department stores stop carrying physical media and they're being put out by these niche people that are upscaling 4K like Arrow and all the other niche
Criterion.
companies, yeah, Criterion, that's what's going to drive the price up because of the limited content, right? The limited number of copies out there in the wild that you can just go pick up. So, it is a big debate for me. Do I want to?
Yeah.
Somebody asked me the other day, do I want to? Is it something I want to invest in? And I'm like, okay, I think I'm going to invest in more storage for the Kaleidoscape rather than storage for the my as a NAS. I run all my stuff on a dongle with 7 different drives. Yes, those drives can fail and this and that and everything else, but I do have cold storage for a lot of them. So, if a drive were to fail, I'd be able to replace those files that I've spent. I think I have like 1,800 movies ripped right now. So I've spent a lot of time ripping and doing everything. So how about you, Calvin? What is most of your collection right now? Do you have a digital form of collection, or is it all physical?
Right now, it is all physical. I was able to get some really good deals during the Thanksgiving holidays from Best Buy. I think I bought probably like 30 some movies. And all of them mostly was at like $10, $12,
Right.
$8, like off really good stuff. But like Chuck was saying, a lot of those prices they have went up now to where they're like, back at the normal prices. And I think that it's the way I look at it is that when as physical media becomes more like a monopoly, so I feel like Walmart is going to keep selling it, and then I think Walmart's been buying up people as
Yeah.
far as rights to sell.
Yep.
So I think that they're going to have more stable pricing. So then you're going to have to pay like whatever it is that they have going, for that actual product. But even if sales start to drop and physical media does go away, I think that'd be more incentive for companies like Apple and other people who are digital to give you more bandwidth, right? To give you a greater Atmos mix. And I think that those different movie houses are going to be pushing them to say, hey, I want this experience to be similar to what my customers would normally have gotten if it was on DVD. And so, or they may give you an option like they have now with Netflix or wherever, where you have this one plan, it's this cost. If you want the Atmos, it's going to be this cost. Or maybe they come out with a higher tier where if you want, DVD quality, DVD, bandwidth movies, you got to pay extra $5 a month or something like that.
But then you got
Um,
to worry about
Go ahead, Chuck.
yeah, and
but then you got to worry about the internet providers throttling you
I was
down
I was
and
just about to say that.
and all of
What's
that type
yeah,
of stuff as well.
yep. Because what's the benefit of pushing 60 gigs? If AT&T is gonna be like,
Uh,
nope.
I think we had this discussion with Don and his 10 gig internet,
Yep.
which is
5 gig.
great. I'm jealous of 5 gig. Yeah, I am jealous of 5 gig, but in reality, right now, there's several things. One, how many devices do you have that have 5 gig interfaces? Two, even let's say you do have all of that, how many people or other end devices, even Google or anything besides your speed tests, how many, services or sites are actually providing 5 gig to you. And then even if you, like, let's say I had 5 gig and you had 5 gig, that in itself, there's pops, what we call pops along the way of the different paths that will throttle from provider to provider, because it's like, oh, Google to Spectrum, no, you're sending something, I'm going to throttle that down to 25 megs. It's like, that's all you're getting, So there's so many things that are involved.
So the reason that I got the 5 gig is because, as mentioned, I plan on upgrading storage for my Kaleidoscape, and that allows a 2.5 gig. And when they open that up, I mean, it opens it up and you use the absolute full bandwidth, from what I understand from the forums. I mean, it is eating every bit of your internet up. So if I'm downloading something, right now I have 2 ISPs in my house, and I plan on getting rid of Comcast. I have Xfinity. I have the 1 gig down, and then it's like 40 megs up, right? So I plan on getting rid of that. But if I'm downloading a movie, like right now, I'm downloading Migration. I literally pressed the fingerprint, it made the purchase, and it's downloading Migration on my other ISP, right? But the AT&T that I have is 5 gigs, so it'll give me the headroom to still be able to download that full movie, and then still be able to stream and do whatever else I want to do, if my son's watching TV or whatever. So I'm testing the waters right now. I've got 2 internets that I'm paying, far too much for right now, and I'm looking to downgrade it to 1. And then the other thing is, I have a newer Samsung phone, so I'm able to pick up wirelessly almost 2 gigs on the 6E Plus, right, on my phone throughout the house. And like you said, some of them I'm not going to, some of the sites I'm obviously not going to be able to benefit, because if you're going to some of these mom and pop sites, they're not running that type of stuff. But I mean, from what I consume, I normally watch YouTube videos. I normally search Google for stuff, so I think it'll be utilized. So I just look for the headroom, just kind of like you would in your speakers, right?
Yeah, and I appreciate that, because I know whenever someone hacks into your network, they'll get all your stuff before you even know that
Exactly.
I mean, I don't know.
Well, hopefully I hire a good IT guy named Paul.
We're on 2.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, everyone.
My kids are saying hello.
Hello. How are y'all
Hey, how's
doing?
it going?
Y'all are enjoying the theater, right?
Absolutely.
That's fantastic.
I'll see you later.
That's fantastic. I'm glad they're enjoying it.
Is that your older one, or?
Yeah, that's my son and daughter. Yep.
He's the captain?
Yeah, yep.
Yep.
He's the captain of the boat.
Cool.
He does everything.
He looks like he wrestles sharks for a living.
Yep. He put in my cameras outside. He captains the boat. He does it all.
That's good.
Yep.
I'm glad he's enjoying, and same with your daughter there. So so Chuck, you mentioned the Kaleidoscape, so I just happen to have something.
Hey, drink up, buddy. Drink
Drink
up.
We'll be drunk tonight.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's
I just happen to have a box here.
That's my box right there.
Yeah.
That's your box.
Full disclaimer: this episode is not sponsored by Kaleidoscape.
Not at all. Not at all.
I
But if you would like to purchase a Kaleidoscape, please reach out to us.
There's only one
You want to
person.
pay double
there's
the
only
price,
2 people
get a
right
hold
on
of
the
Tom.
show that owns that too.
So yeah, we're in business, and I'm going to be making a special delivery tomorrow. So
I got
Chuckle
the 22
Nice.
terabyte.
Nice.
22 terabyte. Right now they're running a
You
deal
want a
for
gig over there, man.
1,000. Running a deal for $1,000 worth of movies. Also,
I think you are going to love the Kaleidoscape, Chuck. I know you well
Oh,
enough.
I know I am, because
Yeah.
I'm a one button push guy. All of that
Dude,
trying
you
to
are going
flex
to love.
and
Yeah, exactly.
I was
That
joking with
is.
Chuck the other day because we were troubleshooting his drive and everything else. I said, Chuck, you know, you're the quintessential reason why the Kaleidoscape was made.
Well, and if you call someone, no offense, if you call Don for your tech support, well, yeah, that's going to get a lot more frustrated.
I know the
He-
Zapiti
he's my first
inside and
go-to
out,
guy.
bro. I know that Zapiti inside
I
and
wouldn't
out.
call him
So
to hang my drywall either, unless I wanted it done in 2 years.
hey, put up that
Yeah,
picture. Like, let me show them. Speaking of that, let me show them what I got going on in the theater. Seems how I'm not letting Miguel beat me. So we,
Yeah, he's literally grading Monday. Like it is, yeah. So you have about 2 months.
well, yeah, I first of all, there is absolutely no way that he's getting a house done in 2 months unless it's coming prefab. So
Nope.
there's
I can't even
I
say why publicly.
I'll be willing to bet you when I beat you in Kansas City, a nice bar tab out that house will not be done in 2 months. I
Well,
will
I
willing
can't
to be.
guarantee you the house will be done in 2 months, but I could bet you he probably will finish his theater before yours. I can bet you that.
Well, by finished, do you mean functionable, or do you mean like to where? Because look, I can keep tinkering for years and keep upgrading for years, right?
No, I mean finish to where, hey, I'm ready to show it off and it's done.
Oh.
Not like, oh, I can. There's no paint on the wall. Like
Well,
that's
drywall, as you can see,
it is
this
coming
is
up.
this drywall. So I've gotten all this underside done. I literally have like 3 more pieces of this to hang. Funny story about this. It got cold in Florida, right? It got
When?
cold.
What decade?
It got cold in Florida Saturday or Sunday morning. It dropped down into like the low 50s. That's real cold, right? But so I don't run my heat or anything like that. I refuse to run the heat. The wife hates it, you know. But I it got cold, and I walked into the theater, and I'm like, I finally broke down, and I turned the heat on for my wife, and I'm like, why is it so cold in this room? Well, I look up, and this AC vent, heater, whatever type of vent you want to call it, heater vent, AC vent, it wasn't there. And I'm like, oh shit, I forgot to cut the AC vent out.
Oh, that's
was unplugged.
amazing. You know, you really would have noticed that in the summer in
Oh
Florida.
yeah, definitely.
You're lucky it was while it was cold because you saying cold is
Okay,
probably
you can pull
what,
it down.
70 degrees?
Yeah,
Or
so
maybe
the
50.
bad part about it is I was sweating my you know what's off the day before because it was hot as you know what in there. And I'm like,
Your
why is
labia lips? No, I don't know what you were saying.
it? You can go ahead and stop sharing. But yeah, no, I was like, man, why is it so hot in here? Why is it so cold? I opened the door and cranked the AC way down the day before just to try to get some cool air in there. And then the next day, this cold front comes through, and I'm from Baltimore, so this stuff doesn't bother me. My wife's from Brazil, so she's used to the warm weather, and they've lived down here in Miami for quite some time, so they're definitely used to it. But yeah, no, I walked in and I'm like, what a stupid ass, right? I just bumped. You didn't even
It
open.
happens, man. It's that's the better you are, the more experienced you are at something, the more humiliating or funny it is whenever you're doing something, like we've all, in IT anyways, most people won't admit it, or if they don't, then if they didn't have this experience, then they obviously just didn't work that much. We've all been out there trying to figure out, why the hell isn't this working? It's like, oh, it's unplugged. God. You're like, are you serious?
I think it's the mindset of it. That is too easy to be the problem.
Yeah. The more experience you get, it's like you go into the super complex things, and you're just totally forgetting the most simple things. So you do have to, rule number 2 is apply rule number 1, which is trust no one and believe nothing. You got to apply that rule
I've done
to
that
yourself.
I've done that getting ready for this show. I'm like, why is my camera not working? What's going on? Why is
and you're like,
why is it not working? I'm unplugging stuff.
Let me check all the settings, and then you're
hey, why didn't you turn it on?
You could look at the epic fail I had last week trying to show off the theater stuff and testing it all, and it worked fine beforehand. And then when we flipped to live, everything went downhill from there.
Your gimbal looked like it was a flopping fish there for a little
while. It was all over the place.
So, Calvin, what you got going on over there in that theater? Give me a little bit of background about your theater. What's the dimensions? What's what are you working with over there?
The room is right at 14 feet wide, 17 feet long, and 12 feet high. But it's more of like one of those. It's like a vaulted ceiling, but it's not like a straight train. It's kind of like it comes up. And then once it gets to a certain point, it kind of squares off, and then it gets flat. So it's on the second floor. So
second floor. Okay, that's what I was just going to ask. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of tactile feel, but of course that tactile feel goes all throughout the house. So that's the only downside, I guess, from being upstairs. And I don't know, my first home, I liked it a lot because it was on the first floor. So I feel like we used it more, like where it's now. We still use it, but it's like you got to go upstairs versus just being just right there. So
is your master upstairs, or is this like a bonus room area? How's your house set up?
So the master is downstairs. So we have a master, and another bedroom is downstairs. And then upstairs we have 2 bedrooms and the media room, media/theater room.
Yeah. So if you're like me, I have 2 rooms upstairs that I've been here for 3 years. No, actually, I've been here for 4 years now. And I think I've stepped foot in those 2 rooms maybe twice. So, the good news is my master is upstairs, so it forces me to go upstairs. So I understand what you're saying about, the convenience of having it on the same floor as everything else. So, yeah.
Yeah, Croxon, that is kind of funny. I went down the whole rabbit hole of master bedroom, but that's more of a
I know. I was like, is your master downstairs? And I was like,
that's more of a Texas thing, South thing. I still use it.
I'm like, okay, hey, whatever.
Hey, I guess we can call it the governor's bedroom.
I wasn't even trying to take it there, gentlemen.
Yeah, well, I was, it's politically
Well,
incorrect.
there's this whole thing where
masters
a lot of builders are stopped calling it master, they're calling it something else. I can't remember what they call it.
Really?
Something stupid though.
Mm-hmm. Yes, no,
Just leave that
seriously.
master.
If you get a blueprint,
Okay.
it will not say the word master bedroom on it anymore.
Oh, wow.
Okay. That's a new one.
It's news to me.
Yeah, no idea.
Yeah, I don't even know what they would call it.
Yeah, I know, Chuck. You're in the building industry, and you're like, wait,
main
I've
bedroom.
always called it.
It's
the
something
main
like that.
bedroom or something.
Yeah, pretty much. It's
Main
called,
bedroom.
it's like main.
How did we go left field like this?
I have no clue. Let's go back to right
I
field.
was just chuckling to myself as you're like, oh yeah, and then Don's like, yeah, well, my master's upstairs, and I'm like, you're even leaving the word bedroom off of the word. I'm like, okay, well, yeah, You guys are into some BDSM stuff, I guess. I don't know what's going on here.
Hey, you're the only one with the ball gag down in your basement from me a couple episodes ago. So, no, so you got 12-foot ceilings. What type of setup do you have? Are you running short throw projector, long throw projector, screen
I have
size?
a I have a I have a Sony 295 ES, which is real similar to the projector, the same one that Ike has. It's just the older one. I got it a few years ago from Best Buy. They was having a clearance sale on their demo units and some other units. So it's a full 4K unit, and like I paid like $1,900 for it.
Oh
It
wow,
only
you got a
had
good
like
youth man
200
deal on
hours
that.
on it. Yeah, so I grabbed that at the time, thinking like, oh yeah, I'm gonna have this up and running like in 3, 4 months, and just like a year and a half later, I'm just putting it up. But it's a solid projector. It doesn't have lens memory or anything like that, so I went with a 16 by 9 screen instead of going with the Cinescope screen, and I'm glad I
Okay.
did. I mean, I obsessed over this for so long, whether to go Cinescope or whether to go 6 by 9. We talked about it in the after show. I did all this research and just looked. I heard enough of just get the biggest 16 by 9 you possibly get, and your cinescope is gonna still be large, you know.
Exactly.
And then from there, I went down the rabbit hole again, overthinking things and thinking, okay, I'm gonna go 16 by 9. Now I'm gonna have these black bars. I need to build a Mad VR or buy a Mad VR or get a lens. I'm looking at lens. I'm doing all this stuff before I even put the theater together, right? Just spending
Hmm.
all this time just, looking at all these different things. And then I put it together. It's like I don't even
No, we
I
lost
think
your
I
audio
think
there.
we
That's the
lost you.
voice.
Oh, I
I
thought it
think we
was me. I
lost
was
your
like, oh
audio,
man, did my
Kelvin.
internet,
Yeah, I started.
did my 5 gig internet drop out?
We lost your audio, Kelvin.
You're
Kelvin.
on mute. You're on mute, Kelvin.
We
I
lost
don't
your
think you
audio
can
for
hear us
some
either.
reason.
We lost your audio. Let me see if I can. Yeah, I think he mute. No, he's not on mute.
I wonder why we lost his audio.
Yeah,
Oh, is he using
He was using AirPods.
yeah, he probably doesn't hear us.
We lost your audio. Yeah.
We lost.
Oh,
Let me see if I can.
text him, dog.
Hide his
I'm
video
texting
so
now.
he knows. Hide his video so he knows that he's not. Then he'll know something's up and he'll look.
I think he's seen it.
Oh, there he goes. Yeah, he's
There
like he's using some fancy wire battery operated things, man.
He
This
just,
is why
he
in
just
a-
went
in
silent,
call-
so he didn't have to give away all of his home theater secrets.
Yeah, there you
gotcha.
go.
What was the
There you go.
We lost
Now
your
we hear you.
audio, man.
You started with we lost you at hey yeah, my name's Kelvin.
Nah, he's messing with you.
No, so you were talking about going 16 by 9 and like you've heard just get the biggest screen possible, and you were
yes.
going down that rabbit hole of do you buy a processor, do you buy a lens to go along
Mhm.
with it? So that's where you left off. That's why we like
Gotcha.
this show, because look, anything can happen. We're gonna adapt and keep moving on. So but that's where you were. So
That's good
I
memory
agree with you.
recall.
I agree with you on that. It shows I was actually paying attention this time, right? That I agree with you on that. I didn't go the same route with you as far as buying the 16 by 9, and it's kind of because I was influenced differently, and I wish I'd have went with my gut and did the same thing, because if you buy the biggest 16 by 9 that you can fit. Right. I looked at a 150 16 by 9, and then if you use kind of like the same constant height, you can put, it's literally like an 8 or 9 inch difference diagonally. You can fit a 148 or a 140, excuse me, a 142 or a 141 inch scope screen inside of that 16 by 9. So it's
Mhm.
not, you're not losing a ton of stuff. And I played with this on what website was that? It was like projectorscreen.com
Central.
or something
Screen
like that.
projectors or something
Mhm.
like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, and it actually shows. It's a great tool. It shows a comparison highlighted between the two screens and everything else. So I 100% agree with you. If you can get a big 16:9 screen, even though you only watch, movies for the most part, but occasionally you want to throw the Super Bowl on there, by all means, man, zoom it out and get that 16:9 and, zoom it back in for your
I'm of the 16:9 camp if you have the height, but if your ceiling is shorter,
that's correct.
you can
I
go
agree with
wide.
you.
Yeah.
I say go as tall as you can, and if you reach that limit and you still have lots of width, then go cinescope.
Yeah.
If you have like a
And,
7-foot ceiling,
If you have an extra, and you have an extra feet.
Cinescope just looks awesome too, right? Like, come on, I mean, like 16:9
It does.
looks
It does
cool,
look
but when you
awesome.
see a cinescope screen, you're like, dang, look at that
It
thing.
has that more movie feel.
It does.
As far as
it
like
does.
if you mask it off and stuff. It really
That's what I'm
does.
about to say. As long as you can
I'm
mask,
like Derek. See,
I don't
You
think
can
you miss
mask.
anything.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
like
Chuck, you
Derek.
got
man.
masking on
Stop
yours,
bragging,
right?
Chuck, with your digital auto masking.
That's what I thought. Yeah, that's right. He has the auto masking, not
there's
just
very
masking,
few things
auto.
I'm jealous of. Like I'm not jealous of your K-scope, but yeah, that auto masking, I'm definitely
There you go.
All right. Oh, he even whips it out like I can't unsee it. God
Did
dang
that
it,
bottom
Chuck.
button say jealousy
those
on
two
it?
little buttons. Those two little buttons.
Yep.
I
know.
Chuck is that guy.
M-Wave.
Chuck is that guy that came to M-Wave and didn't even have a projector, and now he has a projector, a masking screen, and a K-scape now. What are you?
and a
gonna get
kaleidoscope that's
next?
gonna
a mod VR. What are you gonna get next? Like a
he's got to
trio?
get the most important thing that he needs to get now is a control system. That's just
Oh,
my
boy.
opinion, so that
Oh.
all
Yeah.
of it can be automated for him. I believe that's
Oh,
the
I
most
was literally going to
important
say that. I was going to say now he needs some sort of control system to where
thing.
it'll
Yep.
automatically mask and stuff depending on the
Yeah.
content
Yeah.
that you watch.
Yeah.
And that was my comment
Kelvin.
about
Beefy.
not buying a second processor, or you got to keep progressing with that next thing. And that is
you know
next
what?
for me.
Like for like a lot of the naysayer, and I'm in that camp usually. Well, I am perceived as being in that camp. A lot of people with your higher end gear, there's a few people that will, if you don't have it, you're not having a good experience, which just absolutely isn't true. But in this scenario, someone that isn't like some engineer for 20 plus years, getting this equipment that comes with support and one button interaction, literally remote control masking, is improving your experience, or someone like me, and I'll put Scott in this camp. We like tinkering with it. We like having a server where, man, my blind's automatically closed because I programmed this application and this server and this API to integrate with my media application. Oh, how awesome is that? And you get that pride.
That's
That's
like a Raspberry Pi, right? You can do something like that with a Raspberry Pi.
Oh yeah.
You
You can
can
do
use a Raspberry Pi, or if you're like us and we already have a NAS, you can even do it inside your NAS.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need to buy any
NAS,
additional hardware.
an open source NAS or a standard NAS can do a lot more than just store data. It can do a lot of stuff. That's where I do all my environmental testing and stuff like that. Throw up a VM machine or whatever, and then that broke, delete, deploy a new one. Instead of I got to put a disk in and reformat and put a whole new drive, I can get to a certain point. Okay, it's working. Back up, full image. Let me test this one thing. Oh, it broke my entire system. Restore from that last point. Bloop, fixed again. There's a lot of things that you can
Yeah.
do with it that
Those are
most
things that
people
I'm
aren't
not
going.
experienced with.
Yeah, most people aren't going to use
That's
it.
not
So
me though.
yeah,
That's
exactly.
not me.
Exactly, and that's where it's like,
I'm bothering Don. I'm calling Don. Hey, Don.
yep, exactly, and that's where your experience is
Yeah,
improving with this higher end, equipment
yeah.
overall.
Yep.
And sometimes I don't even call him. He may call me. Hey, how's it going? I'm like, oh man, that thing a couple of days ago it went down, and I don't know what to do.
You're
And
just
then
like,
he'll
I
help
don't,
me
I
out.
don't even want to think about it.
Did you check
And
if it's
Don's like,
plugged in?
no.
Can you make sure it's plugged in and powered?
Yeah.
No, so
Yeah, right. Is it turned on? Like,
so
Yeah.
one thing that
No,
Chuck
no, you always
experienced, which
start
I
with,
was
did you unplug it? Did you unplug it first
Plug it.
and plug it back in?
Plug it
look,
back in.
that's my number one go-to. Unplug it and plug it back in, see if it works. That's
Yeah.
that's the first thing that I do with everything. And I have an issue with one of my Apple TVs, same exact thing. The screen will be black, it won't turn, it won't e-arc, and until I unplug it, and plug it back in, I can't see nothing. And then it starts up and everything works perfectly fine after that. Yep. So
Hey,
that is why I bought the Watt Box. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that product, but it
You're gonna
has
have to pull it up,
IP control.
Don. Show us the
What's
watt
that?
box.
yeah,
The
don't
Watt
you
Box?
have to
Show
buy
us
it
the
from
watt box. I've
you,
never heard of this.
you have to buy it
You've
you've
never-
from
heard,
those guys,
you've
right?
heard of other, you've heard of
You have to buy
other
it from the dealer.
brands.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
You're familiar with it in other brand names. It's IP controlled power.
Yeah,
Correct.
I think
Oh,
you have
okay.
to be like
Yeah.
you have to buy it from Snapper V, and you got to be a member. And I've been trying to buy it, but it's like
I saw one that
you
was
got
on
to be like
Facebook
a
Marketplace
dealer
for
or
like
something.
$150.
For real? And
I
you
should have
didn't buy
bought
it?
it.
Jeez,
Nah, I didn't
I
buy
would
it.
have bought it. I've been trying to buy it, but it's like, oh, you got to go to Snap AV, and you got to be a member, or dealer, or
But
something like that.
they have little devices now that smart devices that you can plug in on the back of your receptacle outlets that
Can
will do
you
the same thing.
can you pull up one of those, Paul?
I'll have to look
What
for
does,
it.
what does
Yeah,
the
because
Watt box do again?
so the
Oh,
Watt
now
Box.
Chuck wants to buy it. Chuck was like,
So
Yeah.
so here's what
Chuck's all
here's what
over
the
it.
Watt Box does. So basically, it's a battery backup,
yeah,
right? So it's a battery backup for all your stuff. It does sine wave, not square wave, right? So you have the battery backup, and then what it allows you to do, every plug that it has, it allows you to IP across the internet, turn that plug on and turn it off. So if I need to power cycle something, I'm not climbing back through the rack. I just go into the
Oh.
app, I power cycle it, and boom, it turns on and off. So I can reset everything that way.
It's
So that was
just get a smart
remote
plug from
distributed
Amazon.
power. There's a
Well,
lot of devices that'll
Just
do
get a
that.
smart
Have
plug
one
from
yeah.
of those
So
Amazon,
devices.
and tell her to turn it on.
That's nice for
Pun intended.
one interface type of deal. But nowadays, for your average consumer, there's now the Watt box. I'm assuming is, and I gotta find these devices.
They're cheap
But
on eBay. You can get two for $51 right now.
you can do like Govee outlet plugs.
Yeah,
and
you
do
could
the
use
same.
a regular Govee outlet plug. Or
Yeah, and then you
I
have your
think
app, and you can literally create scenes powering on different stuff. It's like, hey, nighttime movie watching on, and it'll
Yeah, I use
only
I
turn
use the
on the
Govee
butt
ones.
kickers.
I use the
type of
Govee
deal.
ones, and that's what I even use to control everything here. So when I come in, I just say,
Yeah,
I
but the
just
Watt
call her name and
box,
say, turn on
yeah,
live stream or turn on.
but the Watt box is like a commercial, like it's full
Yeah.
amperage in the device. So that's what's nice about it. But the devices I'm thinking about, you literally have to like take the outlet off, and it has like an extra, you have to screw
Plug
the
it
wires
into
in,
into
and
the
then you
wires.
push it back in there, and then it becomes smart. I can't find it.
just like a smart outlet, right?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
basically like a smart outlet, but more commercial grade, to where it goes in the wall. The only problem I could think with it is it's kind of a big device, to be putting in behind an outlet that already
You
is
could
really
I
tight.
need to get one for my projector.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
You could just do a Govee with that type of deal because they don't run the full. They run high power, but they're not running like a space heater
Yeah.
type of.
No, I think
I mean,
the
TP Link
Watt box
Casa
has
has some really
the power
nice.
surge, whatever. The Govies don't have any surge, any type of, you know, any of those quote unquote additional protection. It just turns it on and off. But I think the Watt box has like a surge protection.
You have
Pull that up, Ike. I just found it on the
Yeah, let
the
me.
good old intronet. I just found it on the
Intronet.
intronet.
Yep,
The
let me
intronet.
I could do full screen here.
Oh, yeah. That thing
Yeah,
looks
so
really
it's got the battery backup down here, and then it's got the a separate power module, the power plugs that you have, and they sent it to me in two different pieces. So, like I said, each one of these plugs are IP addressable, so I can turn it on and off with with a click of a button in the app. So, but that's what we're looking at there. Let me go
So it's
to
2 pieces. Is that upper piece and the lower piece?
yeah. So one is just the battery backup, and one is the power outlets.
Hey,
Oh,
I
okay.
know that the comment that Beefy made. I don't know if that's how you pronounce that. It is true with the very true with your power outlet on your projector. You definitely don't want to just spontaneously turn it off. Like
Right.
you can turn it on, but you definitely don't want to turn it off because you want that cooling fan to
To
cool
power
down
down. Yeah, and
to slowly.
Yeah, and I was just about to type in the chat, but I was referring to having a surge protection, not having like a Govee
Oh
smart
well,
outlet
the box
for the
that
projector.
the box that the watt box isn't. Sure, I'm sure it has surge protection,
Yeah,
but
some of them
Yeah.
have surge protection.
yeah, you can get. I don't know. I don't know that the Govee thing might have. Shoot, it might have better surge protection than a surge protector.
functionality, I guess, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
Digital loggers.
What about you, Calvin? Do you have anything backing up any of your projector or anything like that? Do you have anything, you know,
All I have is insurance.
There you go.
That's
There
all
you
I
go.
got.
That's all you
If
need,
it
really.
goes, if it goes, it goes.
Yep. Yeah, and nowadays, really, you really should just get, and it's required by code nowadays, just get a whole home surge protector. If you have new build, normally they'll require you, and maybe not in every area, they require you to have
excuse
a
me.
whole home surge suppressor anyways, but you could also just add a surge suppressor to your dedicated home theater power. And you do that
Yeah,
out at the breaker
at
box,
the
and then
service,
you don't
yeah.
have to worry about any of that as far as surge suppression. And guess what? The ones that go there are way better than anything that you're dongle plugging in or rack mounting at the end of the circuit, because that is right at the power as it comes in. It's going
I
to
looked
detect it
into it.
well before anything at the end does. So
I looked into the whole house, and they're not. I mean, it's not expensive. I think like the product itself is like there's a good one that's on Amazon. It's like I think it's maybe 300-400 bucks,
Yep.
and
yeah,
then
no,
you
they're
just need
not that
someone
expensive. It's
to put it
it's I
in.
think it's more of a scary, like, oh God, I got to call an electrician out. I got to do
Yeah.
this. I got to do that. It's like, yeah, you know what? It's worth it. Let's put it this way. It works a lot better than any of this hyped up audio equipment, because guess what? It isn't sold as an audio product. It is sold as a fire
Hmm.
safety hazard protection device, which guess what? That means it has to have a lot more
It's
actual
regulated, like it is a
yeah,
regulated product
actual
versus
uh
going to PSI that you and buying a power
performance
conditioner
behind
that's
it,
like
not this.
$5,000 or
Oh,
something.
yeah, it
And if
has
you
to
have
have
2 panel boxes,
real.
you got to have 2 of them, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
If you have 2 panel boxes, you got to have one for each one.
Yes. Yep.
All right. Yeah. So I mean, look, just like you know, ease of use for the K word.
Oh,
You know,
man.
same thing with resetting your power, right? You know, just not having not having to go back in, because look, every piece of equipment I have in my rack, and I've said this before, I've had to power cycle, as Chuck mentioned. You know, that's my number one go to. You
Yep.
know, every piece of equipment I've had, except for the one piece of equipment that we're not allowed to say, I've I've never had an issue with that piece of equipment. I've never had to power cycle it. It just works, man. It just works. And you know, it's but I've had to reset my AVR. I've had to reset my processor. I've had to reset my Zapedi. I've had to, you know, turn, you know, I've had to, every piece of equipment. So this was something that, you know, I was able to get at a good price. Prior to me becoming a dealer for stuff, I used to refer a lot of business to someone else, and they were actually able to get me one of these at a really good price. You know, they gave me their dealer pricing for it,
Hey,
which
Kelvin. Okay, I think he just went to join. I was just about to ask him to join on his phone, but
oh, okay, cool. So Scott, one thing I want to touch on uh, prior to him joining on his phone and we get all this set up, you had mentioned about the bandwidth earlier. You know, about everybody getting 10 gig. But I think there was some news that came out about this IAMF that we spoke about on the last episode.
Yeah, there's
But
some news.
you had mentioned something. Do you know about the new news?
I do know a little bit about the new news. I'm still putting together the information, but it sounds like they had made somewhat of an announcement during CES that there will be hardware from potentially Samsung this year with IMF built into it. We're not they weren't sure if they were going to call it something else, or they did not disclose whether they're going to call it something else, but it
Right.
sounds like it's going to be available this year. And then another potential news on that is that YouTube may be implementing it as soon as this year as well.
And just to reiterate for people that didn't see our episode last week, what is IMF?
IAMF.
IAMF.
It's a format that allows you to do spatial audio similar to like a Dolby Atmos encoding or DTSX or anything that is able to do the heights and the surround sound. It's the difference is that it's an open source package, so it's free for people to develop and utilize to make their own audio and also to decode their own audio. Yes, you still need to be intelligent enough to program and set it up at this point. But as time goes along, things will get a little bit easier.
And do you know if that's going to be a smaller container than Atmos or DTSX, or you know, do you know if that's going to be a size? Because that's part of the reason why, you know, you're not getting your video is pretty close, right? Whenever you're streaming something, it's
So
pretty close, but the audio is what takes the hit.
the container
Well,
itself won't really
it's
determine the size. It's the actual codecs that are
yeah.
used to
I was gonna say
Okay.
the
are not encrypted but
audio. Yeah,
compressed.
that's what people don't understand. Audio at its fullest is a micron compared to the
Right.
video.
Yeah.
People just don't want to. Here's the real reason streaming doesn't normally do like full whatever without PCM, because it's not as compatible. You literally have to have, if you're giving something the full, hey, ones and zeros, that means the device at the other end has to be 100% compatible. If you do PCM, then is what that does is it provides, oh, I get it. It may not be fully, you know, unrestricted, but it is 1,000 times more compatible with
okay,
everything.
not to cut you guys off, but I think Kevin is ready. So,
Oh, okay. Okay.
Okay.
I think I'll go full screen on this one.
Ooh,
Oh yeah.
okay. I got to stop you right there, man. Back
Let
up
me,
a little
Look at that
bit. The
entrance.
doors. How did
Yeah,
you decide?
back
See,
up,
because I've
back up.
always struggled with this whenever you do like a two-tone. Do you paint the seams? Do you not paint the seams? And I do like that. That looks really good. You know what I'm saying? Like,
It
do you
does look
paint
good.
the
Hmm.
the trim or just the back side of it? That looks
Yeah, the
really
guy, the
cool.
guy, the guy that I had paint the room, he just paint the whole thing. So when you close it, so even on the mold, like the inside of it is that color, and the outside of it is white. So if you're on the outside, it's white, and the inside is gray
Yeah,
or iron
yeah.
or.
So
So we're
that's
on the
pretty
second
cool.
floor right now. Is this like this is just like a hallway? Is this above a garage? Is this above normal living space? Where is this
So
room located?
so so the room itself is it's halfway above the garage, and halfway above like the kitchen area.
Okay.
So part of the kitchen, part of the garage, but it's right off the side from a bedroom. So it's like if I'm in here cranking it, like that whole area, which is not the master bedroom, which is good. But if I'm really cranking it, you can still hear it or feel it up in the master bedroom. So, but
Okay.
it's not too bad.
So go ahead and give us a walk around. Let us know. Let's start with the front of the room. Let us know what you got for equipment.
What's the
And
color? What's your base color that we've seen? And it looks like a gray, like a dark gray. Is that
Yes, this is
true?
called. It's from Sherwin-Williams, and it's called iron ore.
Oh, cool. Okay. Yeah, I
Yeah,
like
so
that
it's really
color actually.
dark.
Pretty
It's
cool.
not black, but it's like the darkest. It's one of the darkest grays uh,
yeah, that looks
that you
nice.
can get. So from the front, if I sit down from the front, we have the acoustically transparent screen, and I have two of the stereo integrity 24s. Uh, I think they're in this box is roughly 14 cubic feet, but it has pretty nice room to breathe up in the inside there. So they get pretty low. I sent the picture of what's behind the screen, but it's three Kef in walls behind the screen.
Yeah, and I'll show
Two
that
of the
after you're done with the tour.
Gotcha.
I'll show that.
Two of the 5160s, which have four mid bass driver and one Unicue driver for my left and right, and then the middle speaker is the 3160, which has a Unicue and two mid bass drivers. And then as we go around the room, this first of the small speakers, my front wide channel, um, and then we have my surround. This driver right here, even though it's a Unicue, it's crossed over at about 125 hertz, but you can definitely tell the difference. I think from like the wide being there, whatever stuff is going from front to back or back to front, you can definitely feel it go all the way through versus jumping from the surround straight to the front. And then at the back we have the same. This is the 8-inch Kef speakers as well for my rear channels, and then it's the same thing that's over here.
Okay, so you have the smaller Kefs are the wide channels, the single driver, and then
Hmm.
the two are your side surrounds with the silver plate. Correct.
Yes, yes.
Now, on those Kefs, are those passive radiators also, or are those active woofers in the silver plated Kef? I forgot the model number of those.
Yeah, so these are the 3160s, and these are active. Those are
Okay,
active woofers. Hmm.
so those are active in there with the
Hmm.
tweeter and the it's a coaxial driver, correct?
Yes, it is a Unicue, so it's a coaxial in a sense, but it's technically like you have levels to it. So a Unicue would be the most precision of a coaxial speaker. That's the best way that I can call
I
it,
see.
because everything is playing in phase. Like it's a part. It's just like one single single source essentially, where a lot of coaxials just have the tweeter within the woofer, whereas this is slightly different.
Yeah, that as John Anthony mentions. Thanks for joining in the chat, John Anthony. That color, that paint color with those kefs look phenomenal, man. I'm really enjoying that. I think Paul actually hit the nail on the head with that color there. That looks really nice. So what
Yeah, it
made you
does.
go with Kef? What was your decision to go with Kef over SVS, over per listen, over whatever other in walls, and then also elaborate why you wanted to go in walls versus bookshelves or you know towers.
So initially, I went with the Miller and Cressel speakers and decided to change course before I even used them. Back to what we were talking about earlier. But just from doing a lot of research, seeing a lot of good stuff on the different forums about KELF, really getting into measurements and the things that that you would like to see from an actual speaker. And then I came on Aaron's channel and really dived in some of his measurements of the different KELF speakers and audio science review in different forms, and just I felt like KELF just had a speaker that would come real close to playing back the music without anything added to it, right? Not trying to brighten it up, not trying to kill the highs or any type of personal touch. It's just that I felt like it was one of those speakers that would play the music as close. It would reproduce the music or whatever you're playing as close to you could possibly do to whatever was in the actual studio. And so I was going to go with just your regular speakers, and then I started diving into the in walls and seeing that most of these in-wall speakers are designed like Kef's in-walls have a open back, which most people look at being a bad thing, but that's not necessarily the case because they're designed to work as an actual infinite baffle speaker. So when you have them within the wall, the volume in the wall in the stud is pretty large, so it works the same as a infinite baffle. So the speaker plays well, really well within the wall. And then you don't have any SBIR effects,
Sound
so you don't
boundary.
have any,
Yeah.
yeah, so you don't have any dropouts up in the lower frequency like you would have with an actual in-room speaker. And then now your baffles are extremely wide too, like the wall kind of becomes your baffle. So as far as the bass frequency go, now I don't run these full range. I cross over around 80 hertz. So it's just a nice, consistent sound throughout the room, and that's what I really like about the KEF speakers.
Okay. And the screen, did you mention the brand name? I'm sorry if I missed that. The screen.
Yeah, so this is a Seymour screen,
Okay.
and it's the
Is it,
Center Stage XD.
okay, so it's the weave. Okay, very good.
hmm Yeah, and
Yeah,
I just
so
and I purchased the actual DIY material, and I had the guy that I work with to do a lot of the AV work for me. He built the frame for me, and
Oh
he
wow.
put it
I
together.
was gonna say, man, if that's DIY, that is an amazing job.
Really good job.
yeah.
Looks clean.
Yeah. So,
Yeah,
but you had
Yeah,
yeah, that's
someone.
good.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say, holy crap! I'm gonna have to have you
he,
build. Like, I couldn't tell that's DIY.
no,
Yeah.
not me. And the guy is great. Like I mean, he's amazing. I think he built the frame for like $1,000, and the screen material was like 500. So
Now
500 some
he
change.
did
So
he did the is it a metal frame or a wood frame? How did he do that?
he did a wooden frame, and then he put some type of cushioning around it, and then he wrapped that cushioning up in velvet.
Okay.
Oh, nice.
Well,
Yeah.
that looks
That
good.
looks really nice.
Yeah, it
hmm
does look great. I
Yeah,
gotta say,
What size screen is it?
It's 140 inches.
yeah,
Yeah, it
okay,
I
looks
mean,
real
plastic
good.
strip.
I wanted to go slightly bigger, but with my throw distance, I could have probably went up to like a 144 somewhere around there, but I didn't want to push it to the limit, so I brought it down to a 140. But if I had a different projector or whatnot, I could probably afford to go a little bit. I could probably push it to 150 and not go too low to the actual subs, but that would have 150 would have probably been the absolute largest that I would have been able to go.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend pushing the 295. I have the 322, the 325.
Hmm.
You don't want to push that thing. I have it on a 137. I think
Hmm.
that 140 is good. You probably don't want to push it to a 150, except maybe if you're using like a video processor, like a
Well,
little
yeah, I
G.
was just gonna say, I I know John Anthony. He used to have the 295 or the 325, one of those with Illumigen, and he had it on a 170-inch screen.
Oh wow.
So, and I think his throw distance was like 22 feet.
Okay,
Once
yeah.
he, he definitely saw a big difference once he upgraded to the NZ8. But yeah, the Lumigen processor also made a big jump for him. He also put the lens in front of it too to be able to get that much light
Well,
output out of it too. So
that explains why he likes his processor. Because yeah,
yes,
even the NZ9 isn't really designed to go above 150. To be honest,
right.
I mean, in reality. So yeah, you would need a video processor if you're getting larger than that.
Hmm.
Like, oh, okay, that makes a lot more sense to me. No wonder he's in love with that thing, and
Yeah,
that makes a lot more sense. I love your
yeah.
theater, and I gotta say, I had an all in-wall system when I lived in Louisville, and this is making me wanting to go back to that
Mhm.
type of system because it's
No,
so
it's
clean.
it's really so clean. You know,
Yeah, it looks
it,
good.
Yeah.
it was the same approach I took when I built my theater. Right, I was
Hmm.
skeptical about in walls, and I went with a relatively budget set of in walls because I wasn't sure if I would like them. But man, they're here to
Yeah.
stay. You know, I might upgrade them, but I think I would always have in walls. I might get a 2 channel speaker just to put in front, maybe for listening to music, but just that
Gotcha.
will be just about it.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I probably will never do that in the current space that I'm in. If I did a dedicated theater, 100% I would do all in wall just because
Yeah.
I think that gives you a more theater like. Do you ever see a speaker in a home theater or in a theater? No.
You do,
No.
but off to the side, out of your vision.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
sometimes, but a lot of them they're hidden behind curtains or whatever. But yeah, and sometimes you'll see the subwoofers hanging in the ceiling and stuff on the very highest high end theater you go to. But right
Hey
now I'm
Don,
in an open concept, so like my backs, my surrounds, they have to be on stands, and I like to have everything matchy matchy. That's more my particularness than anything else. So
hey
it's
Don,
like.
Don, do you have the picture of the behind the screen? I think he shared
Yeah,
it with you on
I
Facebook.
do. I do have it
After
up
the
here on
toll,
share. But before we go to that, I wanted.
okay.
I'm sorry if I missed this because I was trying to upload this picture to my Google Drive. Did you show the your Atmos speakers?
Oh yes, I got so there's a Kef as well. There the light is kind of in the way. I sorry, I gotta.
Now
That's
we
one
can
thing I
see them
gotta get
clearly.
right in here.
We can
Lighting.
see them
Okay.
perfect.
We can see them
Okay.
clearly.
Yes. So this these are Kef. These are 8-inch Unicue drivers, and so the way that the ceiling is made worked out perfectly for the Atmos because the ceiling is already angled like towards me.
Yeah.
So
Oh yeah.
I was able to get them up high because I think right there that's about 11 foot where they're at now. I would have liked to have gotten them wider, but there's some couple boards running down the side right there, and so it would have been a lot of. So I said, just put them right there, and if I don't like them, I would move them out wider. But I really enjoy them there. I can get panning from left to right. Now, if someone is sitting beside me, maybe not as much, but like I say, we don't really have anybody over, or I have multiple rows of seats. So these are the Valencia. I think they're called the Prestige
I like that piping
seats.
too. You got the piping put in them too. on the outside, like the little pipe. They call it piping that goes on the
Oh,
edges of
okay,
the
okay.
seat.
It's called piping. To my this right here.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah,
Okay,
the
gotcha.
edge. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
so
nice.
I got these. We just need to get a riser built for the back, so I haven't done that yet. But if I have someone over, um, I get to experience theater, pretty much every day. So if someone's over, I'm demoing something, we're watching the game, I always sit back there because I'm normally taller anyway. So I just sit in the back and watch it, and I'll let
Now,
someone
I
else sit
have a
in the front.
question, and maybe Don or someone else knows. You would think I would know as many, you know, uh, locations or demos I've been to. I see that you have a seat and then a love seat. Can you easily buy the extra arm from Valencia if you wanted to make that a four instead of a three arm front stage? I'm sure you
I have,
can, but I don't know
I,
if anybody
You
knows
know,
off the top of their head.
I haven't reached out to them what the website shows. You have to buy another seat. Like I would need to buy the seat that has two armrests on it, right? Which is what I want to do. I love sitting with. So I'm kind of weird where I don't like to lay back when I'm watching TV or a movie, and I like to have both of my arms sitting up on the actual armrest. So but these seats are super. I mean, they're pretty up there. I got a great deal up on these used, so that's why I have them. But I pretty much wouldn't have them unless I didn't find a deal on them. But like a
Yeah.
single seat is like I think 23 or 2400 somewhere around there. So um,
Mhm.
I would like to get another one so that I could
We'll have
have
to
two armrests
talk to
here.
them or get them to, because yeah, so to me, you should be able to buy that. You know, that
Hmm.
would allow people to grow. Because when I first saw that, I just assumed, okay, you and your wife want to have your spot, and then the kids and whoever in the
Hmm.
back can have their, spot as well. But I also thought, well, I would want an armrest in between each one. So it's like, I wonder if I change my mind, type of deal.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm right there. Which I thought about moving one of these seats up here and pushing this one over, and then this one will have two. But then I'm stuck with a seat that doesn't have one, and then it's like I'm not centered. I want to be centered, even though being offset slightly, it's not bad. So I don't know. I just got to figure that out as far as what we're gonna do there.
Yeah. So are those microfiber or are they leather? This is a question from John Anthony in the chat.
No, it's I don't know. If you go on the site and look at the Valencia Prestige seats, it's like a microfiber velvety
Okay.
type of seat. I want to say that they were at Wave this year. I want to say Paul saw it in one of them whenever they
Yep.
had that contest. I remember the video, Paul sitting up there.
Yeah.
But
I was sitting in one of them.
yeah, it's a real comfortable seat. And so when I was playing around too, like with Rue, like I don't have any room treatments up right now because I'm waiting on GIK to fulfill my actual order. But when I ran the actual RT60 for this room, I haven't ran it with the speaker with the seats on the outside of the room, but just the way it is right now, my RT60 was right at 500 milliseconds, right? And I thought that was pretty good for a room that doesn't have anything in it. So, but since these seats are like, they're not leather, so these seats are absorbing a lot of stuff too. And so I think
Yeah.
that's why the RT60 in the room wasn't as high as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah. No,
That
those
looks
look
good.
phenomenal. I
I like
like the
that.
way they look.
Yeah,
And they
it
still,
looks real
and
good.
I can
and
tell you
they
do
recline and stuff too.
some gaming up in there. You still got the joysticks laying right there, because it's
Yeah.
like, I see you vacuumed the floor, you did all the cleaning, and then it's like, but no, I'm not moving my joystick. Nah, that's gonna be
Yeah.
right there.
So the PS5 is definitely play Madden and this racing game that I be playing with my
Mm.
son, and then I use the PS5 for my DVD player too. So um,
Oh,
and
okay. Gotcha.
yeah,
Cool.
yeah. So it works fine. Now it doesn't have like Dolby Vision, but it's not like you can use Dolby Vision up on a projector anyway.
Yeah, and
So
I think
um,
they just implemented Atmos on the PS5, correct?
Yeah,
so yes, but so DVDs you could always
use
use
Atmos.
Atmos because the
Oh,
DVDs
okay.
was coming through. You can just change the audio settings to bit stream, and you can get Atmos. So that was never a
Okay.
problem. The problem was you didn't have any way to get native Atmos through your actual game. So all the games that was offering it, you couldn't get it whenever you was playing an actual game. So now if you play a game, you can definitely get it. So there's this one racing game I play, and it's like, I mean, stuff be everywhere, like just. I feel like the
Oh, that's
games
cool.
utilize it better than the movies.
Yes, yes.
Yes, yes.
My friend Ton, he says that a lot. It's like a lot of this audio and immersion is really stemming from video games because it's ever changing, and they have to make it to where it's not just a static one scene repetitive. It's, oh, you may be in this one position, but you may be looking in 10 different directions. So they literally
Hmm.
make that a lot more immersive and dynamic than a movie, which you know definitely. I really
So
like the clean look. Can we see your projector? And is there your place
And
is
that's
so clean. It's like, oh yeah,
and
it's
that's
like,
and that's and honestly, like this is how it looks most of the time because only I really come in here. Like my son, he only come in here when I come in here. So
How high are your
this is pretty.
ceilings, Kelvin? How
He
tall
said
is that
12
It
foot.
ceiling?
go. It's 12 feet.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I
I see.
noticed.
I can see the angle now. I see what you mean about the
uh-huh.
speakers
Yeah, for the
facing towards.
Atmos.
Those are
yeah,
they're that he didn't even have to get the angled in ceiling speakers. They're already
no,
that
Oh,
Right.
angle's already
Yeah.
there
literally.
for them.
Yeah.
I think
you're,
Hey,
people
you're
might start
30-degree
designing
going
theaters
out.
like this now. What do you
And I
think?
said the same thing. It's like, do you buy $10,000 a piece speakers that have an angle in it, or do you just build the
Just angle
ceiling
the
for
ceiling.
like 5 grand?
I know,
You
right?
Yeah.
know,
Not even
it's like you
five
could
grand.
literally redo the whole
Just
room
put a
for less than
drywall
you
there and
put.
angle it.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean that looks really nice. I didn't even consider that. Well, I know that before you've mentioned in the after show that your ceiling was angled and everything else like that. But I mean this actually worked out perfectly. To
Yeah.
angle your speakers right at the MLP, right at the main listening position.
yeah,
So
yeah. No
When
kidding.
there
he
was no
first
need
showed
to
the
spend
Atmos
extra
speakers, I
money
didn't
on
see the
those.
angle until this angle right here.
Yep, yep.
Yep, in the
Yep.
front. If you could, like here, it's the
Just
same
go
way. It's just
straight at the
So
angled.
listening position, man.
the wide speakers, we talked about wide dispersion for these uniQs, right? So
Hmm.
those are kind of just shooting straight out into the room. There's no angle to them, correct? Can the tweeters be
Correct.
moved or anything like that?
So the tweeters can't be moved. I went back and forth on this for a long time too. I almost purchased the RSL speakers that have an angle to them. They have a in-wall speaker that has an angle to them, and they're really good speakers. Matter of fact, I have them in my in our living room setup. That's what I'm using. So I almost purchased them, but I kept looking at the data on them. Going to Kef website, looking at the spinorama data on the dispersion, and when I calculated the angles, like me being off axis from this speaker at about 30 degrees was like a negative 2 dB up in sound pressure.
Okay.
So I figured that, they would be good for the most part. And honestly, like I'm sure if I had a speaker that was angled directly at me, maybe when I got the volume up really high, like if I'm listening at reference and something passed through there, I'm sure that this speaker's probably struggling then. So if it was
Hmm.
on axis and even whenever the system, did the levels, it didn't boost this speaker a lot. It only, I think it was like a -7 or a -5 or somewhere around there. So it didn't have to boost it a lot either to get, to have it at the 75 dBs for the reference level.
So one thing that we didn't see in this room is equipment. Where's your equipment at?
And that's a whole different story. My equipment is in a closet. Don't don't judge me. That's where I really gotta
You don't
improve
have to
it.
show it if you don't want to. Just
No,
you
no,
know.
I'm gonna show it because
You know what? The
I've been kind of
reality is, I mean, unless you're trying to show off some blue lights,
yeah,
I've literally
I've been
thought
kind of
about doing this exact thing right here in the closet next to me. Because I was like, I
so
could just put it all in a closet.
That looks
so like the
good. No
plan here.
judgment.
So like the plan here was to buy a rack and put it here and all that good stuff. But then when I told the builder what I was doing, he said, "Yeah, we'll build something in there that can do it." I thought it was going to be crap. Well, what he built was actually it had pretty good space and
Yeah.
it fit everything. So I just got to get in here and clean up the wires and stuff. Right now, the wires are not like they should be. They ran a whole bunch of wires they didn't need to run. Like for the subwoofers in the theater room and downstairs, I went all passive setup, but they still ran. They ran the passive wires and they ran the coax cable. And I got all this coax cable, and it's like, well, I don't want to just cut the cable because somebody may buy the house
Mm-hmm.
one day or rent the house that
Mm-hmm.
want to use regular subs. So I got to find a way within the confines of these shelves to clean that up. So I got to either clean it up within the shelf, or I could go in the attic and all the wires I'm not using, like pull them back through some, but not like pull them all the way out, but just pull them back through. So
Nah, we
I'm not
just
for
don't
Nah,
sure.
I
you
wouldn't
don't need to
even
do
worry
all
about
that.
it,
I wouldn't
man.
even worry
No.
about that,
if
man.
you want them to be really, 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 really fancy per se, like you coil them up as much as you can in like a circle, and you can either just put them in like a
Just
a
put them in
little
a black trash
box,
bag and
or
just tape it up.
yeah. Well, you can put them in something
And just
fancier if
tape
you
it up,
want, but
man. Yeah.
yeah,
You
or
Some
will
people
put
will
see it.
build like a small like box or some kind of
or
enclosure with a door. You just coil them up
yeah,
and put them
or a
inside there. You
loom,
never
or
see it
you could
anyway.
even cover them with a giant loom, like
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
I
just
mean,
like that orange, tube that you got back there. You can just combine
Hmm.
them all together and put them in that. Put them in something like that.
yeah, I'm telling you, anybody. The thing is, if you're showing it off and you're trying to sell your equipment, yes, you want it to be the most pristine. But beyond that, the reality is, anybody that's ever had a system, you're like, hey, what's going on? And you're back there messing with wires, unplug it. Like you're troubleshooting one thing,
Hmm.
and it's like, you're unplugging this, unplugging that. And it's like, you're never going to have it pristine again, unless you're literally showing it off that one
Which one is the
time.
coaxial wire that you're trying to hide? Which wire is it?
Yeah, I don't even see it
Right
at this
here,
point.
like it's back off in here. It's a lot of all this
See,
yellow
look, he's
wire.
got like one wire, man. Now I am judging you. It's like, man, I
It's
don't
like
want to
maybe
show you
4 or 5
mine
yellow wires
if
popping
you
up.
think that's bad.
So
Hey,
Yeah.
I'll show you
Kelvin, there's
Mine.
Amy.
someone in the comments section that's wondering if you can give them a quick rundown of the hardware that you have in here. I know you did initially, but can you kind of just point them
Okay,
out
yeah, that's cool.
and
Yeah,
So
that'd
this
be
is
rad.
so these are two Buckeyes, the NC 500. I don't know if it's 500 502, but the actual Encore series, the base series. I was gonna get an 8 channel version, but he was out of. This is back in like November. He was out of the chassis for those, so I just got two of the 4 channel one. This is essentially the same. Like the 8 channel one has two power cords that actually go into it. So kind of worked out kind of very
now
well.
stacking them on top like that, do they get hot? Because it doesn't seem like you have any doesn't have a lot
They
of
do get
ventilation there. So what
they
They
do
don't
get
get hot.
hot. I mean, like they get
Well, the
hot, but
question
not
is,
like
what
but
class are those amps? Are they class H?
No, D.
class. They're all D.
They're all
So
D.
they have some heat that comes with them, but it's not too bad. Normally, I
Yeah.
don't have it here right now, but I normally have a fan. I was in here messing around yesterday, and I haven't since. Gotta find that fan. I'm gonna have this little fan sitting right here, like just little old bitty fans, and I have that fan just blowing out across it, right? And it just
Right.
moves air for me because I was
Yep.
gonna get a shelf and put it on this shelf, but the more and more I looked at it, I was like, I just don't think I need it. So I just ordered some of those, the little hi-fi stands. It's like an inch high that people be using. Get them on Amazon for fairly cheap. I just ordered some of them so I can get some more space in here between them, so that there can be a little bit better airflow. And then I may get me some of those, not the infinity fan units, like the full rectangular units, but just the fans to just put up in there, and then they can just move. They can
I'm
move some air
running
too.
I'm running those fans right now, and they work really well.
What do you
Like
have
5.
above that? It's just your attic?
Yes, so my attic
Yeah.
is above. Yeah.
So
It's a
one thing you
walk-in
could
or
also
drop
look at
down.
is like that AC Infinity. They make fans that will suck the air out of there too and just blow it up into your attic. So you can, and it's fairly cheap and be easy to put up in there. Just to, I think it's like a
Yeah,
two
that's what I
fan unit that
need.
you can put up in there to maybe
Now,
Or
help
you can just,
dissipate
will
or
they
you
some
can
heat.
not
just
fit
build, you can build
side to side?
additional shelves, right? You can build additional shelves that are going vertically towards the wall. So,
Yep.
and then just stack them up. So it shouldn't be, you know, just at the right side and the back wall. You can just build shelves, put them on there,
Hmm
1, 2, and just stack them up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So what else you got
and
underneath of there, underneath the Buckeyes?
yeah. So these are the two NC 500s, four channel. This is the 8 channel of the 252. This is the AV10, and then we have the 6700H, and this is what the living room and outdoors or the back patio is powered off of.
Okay.
Um,
So a whole nother
and
receiver for zone 2.
so it has so in the
Ah,
living room.
see,
So in the
Chana would be happy with the zone 2. Is say,
Zone
here's my
2.
zone 2 right here. A whole nother power
so
You got a
button.
whole zone 2.
yeah, so in the living room there's a 5 channel setup, and then outside I have 4 in-ceiling speakers out there,
Okay.
and then down
Very
here
nice.
is what power the subs. This is a PA, like a professional sound amp. It's made by a company called CVR. It's a 4 channel Class D amp, and it's pushing like 4 times 3,000 watts.
Oh wow.
So it's pretty good power. I have two 240-volt runs down here for it, but I've been
Goodness
having some
gracious.
issue. I've been having an issue where every time I plug it into the 240, it works like amazingly, but I'm getting some type of weird feedback. Like my other speakers, whenever I plug this amp into the 240, I hear this little tick through my other speakers. But when I plug it up in the dedicated 120, I don't hear it. And of course, the 240s they are dedicated as well. So I asked a couple guys up on the AVS forum about it. They gave me some ideas of what to check. I just haven't checked it yet. So it's still running off
Man,
100
you were
and
pushing
120
way
volts.
too
But
much power. 240 is no joke, man.
yeah, I mean,
Yes.
whenever that amp is
When I,
running off of
that,
240,
that,
you could turn the level way down because
that's a whole dry iron washing
whenever
machine.
you get your Christy Griffin, you're ready to go.
Yeah, you're ready to go, man.
yeah.
My
So
goodness.
so that's
Yeah,
so that's the amp that's running the subs. Like I say,
yeah, and we got
it's a
to pick
beast.
up that amp from the floor so that the carpet doesn't heat up.
Yeah, I'm going to put something on it. I just moved it down there maybe 2 weeks ago, so I got to get something underneath it. But honestly, it doesn't. Even though it's pushing a lot of power, it doesn't get that hot. I mean, it has
It
fans
looked
in
like
it
you
that
could put a
blow
shelf
through the
right on
back.
the top of the baseboard. Use the
Hmm.
baseboard
Yeah,
as the
As a
piece of
shelf.
wood.
Yep.
as chef.
Look at the
Yep, that's a
construction
good
guy
idea.
already pointing it
Oh
out.
Yeah, look
yeah,
at him.
yeah,
Look at the
yeah. I was
chef.
gonna say, he saw that instantly, and yes, that
Yeah,
is definitely. Regardless, you definitely don't want any of that sitting on the. Like, I don't even think
sitting on the
your
carpet.
PlayStation
Yeah, the
should
top
be
of your
sitting on
baseboard is
the
flat, so
carpet.
you can run a piece of wood right across from right across that
Yep.
baseboard, right, you know.
Yeah, then
No
just set that one up
construction
there.
required except for go to Home Depot and give them the measurement to cut it for you.
Yep.
You paint it. You paint
Okay.
it white. That's about all you'd need to do. Shoot, you could probably buy prefabbed white, shelving that would.
You,
Yeah,
you, you
you
can
can.
use. I mean, you can probably use a piece of old drywall, like that amp can't be that heavy. It doesn't look that heavy.
And
So
on the top shelf, it looked like you got room behind the Buckeye amps. You could put a false wall, like you were saying, pull that wire, the extra wire up, and
Mm-hmm.
put it behind the false wall.
Yeah, put it
Because it looked like
yeah,
you got room between the back of your amp and the wall.
just put a drywall
Mm-hmm.
there and just cover it. Or put
Yeah,
a
right
piece
across,
of wood.
and it'll cover that hole in the back, and and all your wire could be sitting
Yeah,
right there where you won't even see it.
yeah,
You know
that's
what I
true.
mean?
Because the builder was going to fix this after, because they had to come in and cut these holes out because they made they ended up messing something up. But I liked having it open because I was still messing around. I was like, just go ahead
Yeah.
and leave it open. But yeah,
But is
I
there
definitely see
room
what you're
between the
saying.
back of the amp
Yeah,
and the wall? How much
it
room is
looks
back
like,
there?
yeah, almost like
Probably
a couple
about
of inches.
maybe
Yeah,
10 inches.
yeah. You could put
Yeah,
six inch
that's what I mean.
false
You can
wall in
come
front of there and have
6
all
inches
your wire
forward,
hidden. Yep.
6 inches
Mm-hmm.
forward with a false wall. Know what I mean?
Okay.
That's
Mm-hmm.
a great
Going from
idea.
left to right.
Chuck, just send him the
Okay.
plans.
Yeah. Yeah, he needs to know that
Hey,
you can,
Paul
like, you
can
could
give you a
set,
3D diagram.
yeah, you could set something up there and then just have like a couple screws on the left and the right that
Or
will hold it
hinges.
up. And
Yeah,
then,
just
yeah,
use
and then
hinges so
whenever
you can open it. Use
well, he would need
hinges.
to lift it up and pull it all the
Yeah.
way out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you don't need to open it. Just put 2 pieces of wood going up the sides of the walls,
Mm-hmm.
and a piece of sheetrock that spans that left to right behind that cabinet, that side cabinet,
Yeah, right
just
behind
past it,
the network.
and
Mm-hmm.
and that'll create a false wall. Just make it short enough that you can lift it up if you had
Yeah.
to come over your equipment.
Yeah.
You don't have to
Gotcha.
go to the ceiling.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah, you
then
just
you
have
don't
to
need a
cut
door
a
or
portion
whatever.
out of it for your wires down
Yeah,
at the
yeah, I
bottom.
wouldn't
Give
do a
yourself enough.
door. I would do something
Yeah,
that
that's
was
what I
just
said. I wouldn't do a
high.
door. I would just put a handle on it on each end so that you can
Mm-hmm.
lift it up to take it out. You know what I mean?
I'll 3D CAD it for you next Monday. we'll
So
talk on the daily high
when you
five.
return back to the show, Alex the Great has a comment here. He says, if you don't mind, really curious what GIC acoustic package you ordered that's on the way. So he's also looking to treat a room too with them. So when we get you
Okay.
back in the show on the computer, we'll go ahead and address that for you. Alex the Great will go ahead and do that. And
Okay, I can do that.
so you're using your PlayStation as the player, as you mentioned
Yeah,
prior,
PlayStation.
and you
Mm-hmm.
got two separate head units basically for one for the downstairs and one for the patio, or the downstairs and the patio, and then you got
Mm-hmm.
the
AV10.
AV10, right? So how are you
Yes.
liking the AV10? I know a lot of people have got that. Chuck's got the AV10. Fred's got the
Yeah.
AV10. You know, what
So
do you
I,
think of it?
so I would say it's a really good product. Before I hooked up the AV10 in here, I had my 6700 in here, just because I was waiting on the amps and I wanted to hear it. So I went through the whole exercise of hooking it up. And really, the only difference between that and 6700, in my opinion, was just that with all of those speakers, the 6700 did really well. But when you got, if I was playing music, when I got up to like maybe a -10 or -5, I could definitely tell that I was kind of running out of juice. So with the processor and running the amps, you don't really have that problem at all. It's a lot of
Right.
you have a lot of wiggle room. So I would say that the 6700 is just as good if I had an actual amp, or if I would have just ran it from the, using the using the outputs on it, it would have been a really good product too. So, but I love the AV10. I don't really, I haven't had any issues out of it. I mean, it works. I don't, I listen to a lot of Apple Music through the Apple TV, and
So your
I have.
AV10, what manufacturer is that? A lot of
Isn't
people
that
don't know. I know a lot
Marantz?
of us nerds don't
Oh,
know
gotcha,
all
gotcha.
that, but a lot of we need to make sure manufacturer and then model number, not just model number, because only us nerds know
Gotcha.
Well,
what that
if
Yeah,
you
so the
is.
Google AV10,
AV10
it'll
is
pop right
Marantz.
up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but yeah, do you really
yeah.
want
Yeah,
to
I got you.
It's a
Google while
So,
you're
Marantz.
watching a
so,
video? I
so
wouldn't. I'd
really,
be like, what the hell's that?
AV10 is made by Marantz, and the 6700 is made by Denon, who are essentially the same company for the most part.
Correct.
There's
Sound
different
United.
divisions.
Same
Yeah,
parent
Sound
company. Yeah.
United or what do they call this stuff now? Massimo,
Massimo,
Massimo.
yeah.
something like that.
Massimo.
Massimo.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's
Yeah.
just two different. It's two different areas of the company that make two different units. Denon is supposed to be, well, the Marantz is supposed to be a little bit upper echelon of their units, but their Denon units are amazing too. So.
Yeah, no, I have the 6300, and I have kind of like a similar setup that you have. I have the 6300 is going to power my living room area and some outdoor speakers, just like you've done. And
Hmm.
then I'll have a different processor, and the amps, the Emotiva amps, are going to process or are going to just do the theater alone. So, very similar
Now,
setup.
now,
And
aren't
also
Denon
with the 60,
primarily receivers? They don't make processors.
I don't know. I don't
correct.
know that they
They
have a
don't make
processor. Yeah,
they
Yeah,
Yeah,
don't make
that's
Denon is
right.
standalone
primarily
processors,
receivers.
but all their receivers now they have pre-out, so you can make
Yeah,
them just
you can
you
put
can
them in
treat
Right.
them
preamp mode.
just like a processor.
Yeah, you could treat
Yeah.
them like a processor, but they're basically
Yeah.
receivers, but they do
Hmm.
have, like you said, the out so that you can use amps.
Yeah. And the thing that's always gotten me is I would think processors would be cheaper because you don't have to put amps in them. But I think it's just maybe a scales of economy type of deal where you don't sell
They
it
they
as many of them, so they're higher.
they
It's
say they
funny that you bring
claim.
that up about being cheaper because I was actually surprised last week on the show. We actually looked up Trenoff, and the last
Hmm.
time I remember looking at it, it was like 16 grand. Well,
And now
I
it's
was
like,
thinking about this today, right? Well, it went up to 19, almost 20 grand for the Altitude 16. But I'm thinking to myself, okay, they're using the same processor. They're using, everything's remaining the same inside of this. So as the
hmm
years go by, my feeling is that you know
it
the
should go down.
technology's gotten better and better and better, so this processor should
Mm-hmm.
actually cost them less than what it did when they
Mm-hmm.
first came out. So why would they be
Mm-hmm.
increasing the pricing? You understand
Well,
what I'm saying?
you're
Because
not well, let's not kid anyone. You're not paying for the hardware in any of these devices.
Paying for the
The
brand name.
hardware and the processor is less than 2 grand
Yep.
total. There's no way any of these processors, they're not even a $300 Chromebook almost at this point.
right.
Literally, you're paying for the engineering and the application and the licensing for the interaction between all of those things. And honestly, that last bit, that's where a lot of that money comes from.
Yep, and the
Is the
brand
device.
name. That's what you're paying for. So
Well, honestly, I've looked at it doing just like a full Myers sound to compare to a Trinov and get like 16 or 32 channels where you're doing all your own interconnects, channels, all EQ'd and everything. And hardware wise, you could get all of it for 8 to 12 grand, depending on what you're wanting to do, all XLR. But once you say, oh, well, now I need Dolby Atmos, well, that's another 6 or 7 grand. Boom. So it's like, well, shit, now I might as well get a friggin' trim off. It's like, oh, okay, well, yeah, that makes sense. And if you're doing the $8,000 system, you have to program code and do all of that yourself. It's not like all this software and all this audio just like you hit a button, right? That's so as much as I would never pay that much for a home theater system, it's not real. It's not as expensive as the price tag shows if you're really needing 16 32 channels. Now, I'll still argue the point, like, if you have a 9-foot or even a 14-foot deep room, you don't need 32 channels, man. And you definitely don't need a Trinnov to properly place each speaker. You could literally spend a quarter of that money building the room exactly dimensional to make the sound perfect. I will argue that point. But as far as like just, hey, I want to be able to do all these features and all these things, turn channels on, off, and all this stuff and have all that control, Trinnov really isn't that expensive. You're literally paying for the licensing and stuff that they have.
Right, right, yeah.
What is it running on? It's running on the
they're only using
3080,
like an
right?
i5 processor, I believe.
Yeah, the 3080, isn't that what the latest one is running on? Or is it the Amplifier or 2080 or whatever?
Yeah,
So,
it's so it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, it's not for your average consumer, but the problem is you get everyone in the AVS forums that'll say, oh, I've got a 5.4 system Trinnov, and that I'm exaggerating because I know they always do more than 5. I've got a 16 channel 9x9 room. You're not even touching what I'm experiencing, and it's like, no, dude, you're dead wrong. You're dead wrong. They have done very, very extensive research on how many speakers a human can tell a spatial sound is, in relation to, how many speakers and your human. You only have 2 ears, that everyone forgets that. But spatially trying to locate stuff and do all this stuff, it gets more complicated, the different rooms and the larger the size, et cetera,
so
but
don't
for your
quickly.
average consumer, dude, you could
Do you
literally
want to
get
share
a
the behind the screen of
Yeah, sure.
Kevin's?
It's already
Oh, yeah,
sharing. All
yeah.
you got to do is pull it up.
But
Okay.
he was
Hey, I
also
was.
going to say
Oh, dude. Yeah.
gig package he got too.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah, we'll
That looks
remind
so
awesome.
so you got the larger
Oh yeah.
of the two for the left
It's
and right.
you know what? I hate to say it. It's almost a sin to cover those up with the
I
silver.
was thinking the same
You
thing.
know?
I'm like, do you ever take
You know,
do you ever take
I'm
your
like, man,
screen down
you
and
need
just
to take
listen?
that screen down,
He
man,
needs
or
to
have
build
like
a
a.
lift for the screen.
Yeah, you
now.
need a lift so while you're listening
Yeah.
to 2 channel, you can
There's
see the or Atmos music.
So I almost purchased the Kef Reference 5 this past week. A guy had them on sale, which are in-room speakers, and I missed out on them. So my plan then was I was going to take out that left and right speaker and then potentially sell them or use them for my surrounds. And then the other surrounds that I have, move those to my actual wide
Okay.
speakers. But then that fell through. But what I'm thinking about now is I really like the way it is now, but I'm thinking about in the actual corner, build me like a angled enclosure in the actual
Right.
corner that's at like maybe 20 degrees in,
Mm.
and then take these speakers and put them there and have them just angled in. And yes, the angles are kind of off some from what Dolby Atmos spec slightly, but the dispersion is so wide on these speakers, I feel like that I would make up for it. So I'm still debating on if that's what I want to do with them or not.
You know
So
what?
is there a
Well,
reason? Is there a reason you went with a smaller center?
I bought these used, and that's what the guy
Oh, okay.
had. Now,
Okay, that makes sense.
now, Kef is Kef has a cell on their reference in wall, so it's the next level up. Like just like they got the reference five, reference three, and reference ones, they have a cell on their reference ones. I mean, on their reference in wall speakers. So part of me is wanting to, either just buy the actual center channel of the reference speaker, which is like the gold and black one. That's my favorite one, and that's the one that they have that is on sale. But buy the center speaker and then put the reference speaker to center, and then use this one and another regular one like this one for my wides, or just replace all three of them with the actual reference speakers. But I'm still adding up the numbers on that.
Yeah, yeah. So you know, like you said, you could take those out and put them on your sides, and then move them all around. But when they built the construction, where do you have fire blocks and stuff in there? That's the cross member that goes horizontally across. That's the only thing that can inhibit you from being able to do that.
Yeah, in Texas, we don't really have like the fire block stuff.
Okay, okay. So it's just 16 on center or 24 on center studs,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yep.
and nothing going across the middle. Okay,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
I'm surprised you don't with ceilings that high though.
I mean,
8 foot ceilings, I wouldn't
some
expect it, but
houses
12
some
foot.
houses have them, but I think I do have some, but it's not
Hold
like
up. So when you say fire blocks, let me make sure that I'm understanding what you're saying. What are you referring to, like just the extra material they put in between it to prevent
No,
fires? Or are you talking about?
it's a horizontal two by
two
four
by
going
four
across
wood that runs across the drywall.
Between the
So
in,
studs. So you
in
got your
between the
studs going
studs.
vertically, just like your speakers, right? So just
Hmm.
imagine laying a
two by
laying
four.
a 2x4 across in between your two speakers there,
In
but
between
laying
each
flat.
stud.
Okay.
Yeah, usually about 8 foot up. There's usually a horizontal in
Yeah.
between each stud.
No,
Yep.
now we don't have that, but there are some areas that's on each wall where they have like five studs back to back to back to back, like, or
Okay.
four
Right.
studs back to back to back. I don't know if that's accomplishing like the same thing, but we don't have the horizontal
Yeah,
ones
that would
going
be your
across.
load bearing.
That's what I'm about to say. There's something load bearing sitting on top of that.
Yes.
Mhm.
Hmm. Yeah, those
Yeah,
run up to the
and
support
those
for the
look
roof.
beautiful. I contemplated so hard on whether or not to get these calves. I mean, I drove from Tallahassee when I lived there. I drove from Tallahassee and drove all the way to Orlando just to go look at these. There was a home theater store in Orlando that had a theater set up, and I just talk about gorgeous, like you said, just putting them on the out. They were on the outside of the screen, and then underneath they turned your one of the speakers just like you have. They turned it horizontal and put it
Hmm.
underneath of the screen. And I mean, just like you said, Scott, just have you ever just taken your taking your screen off and looked at them, because they do make some beautiful speakers, and I do like the black and gold ones, like you said, but they definitely want a pretty penny for those reference speakers too, So
Yeah, and so the ones that are on sale right now, they're like three and some change. So it's kind of like they're normally 7,500. So it's just like,
yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like I can do a lot with that. So um,
well, I mean, look, if anything, I would say that you buy one for the center speaker. You
hmm
just match what you got, because that's the
hmm
most, in my opinion,
yes,
that's the
most of the
most important
content. Yep.
speaker in your whole
Yeah.
system. So
That's
hmm
you
that's what
just
I would be wanting is to match that center with your left and right.
Because really, like, the if you think about it, for most of the content, these speakers, even though the other speakers have two more drivers, they're going to play exactly the same, because they're crossed over at 80 hertz. So the vote, you know, I say from 300, 400 hertz and up, they can play level all the way across the board. Now, if I was running these full range, then the two that have the four drivers on it, the four mid bass driver, they would definitely play louder at those frequencies. But all of them
right.
had the same. Unicue driver, so there's not a big difference between
Yeah,
how loud
and
they
it
can
looks
go.
like your tweeter height may be a little bit you know
A little bit lower, yeah.
a little bit off, but I don't know with these drivers, like you said, if you can actually hear that difference.
You
With them
can't, and
not
so
being
and
perfectly
so
level.
and so that was the thing. So my, it's like one of those things. I went to the gym and I came back, and they were in like that. And so I told my stall, I was like, man, we talked about leveling it at the silver cone, not at the, whatever. And I said, well, let me play some stuff. I don't feel like, having to fix this if it's not going to make a difference. And so I played some stuff. I couldn't tell the difference, you know what I'm saying? Because,
Well,
Yeah,
I'll tell you, when I saw this, I knew everyone would have this particular question, because normally you would line up the silver.
hmm
But is what I assumed, and is what I think you would tell everyone, is the left and right are so much taller and your subs are
yes,
really large that you
yes,
put the center speaker to ear
on
level,
axis.
and you put the left and right. And I don't know if I missed that, because I
So
had to step away.
honestly, it wasn't done on purpose, but I think it worked out better like that because,
Yeah,
as you
because that
said, a
that
lot of
that's
your,
what I assumed you
yeah,
did on
like a lot
purpose.
of your,
Because I thought about it, I was like, you got everything else so perfect. So I was like,
hmm
so this has to have been intentional,
You
at
know
yeah,
least
what?
from
I
my
think
perspective.
I think the offset actually makes it look better if it was screen off.
It,
Like the
yeah, yeah,
offset looks good,
it
and
looks
it's
good.
it's so little that at your seating
Oh, in
distance, I can't imagine you
reality,
would ever tell the difference when it's panning left or right.
there is
yeah.
very at that distance, yeah, no. But yeah,
There's
if it's
no.
on the
Well,
floor,
most
I'm
people
a
have a vertical center anyway, and it's always
yep,
lower.
yep,
You
That is
know.
true.
exactly,
Exactly.
That is
exactly.
true.
And I have that right now too,
Yeah,
and I
the
wish I had, that's what I'm
horizontal
saying.
setup.
I'm thinking, man, I need to go friggin' in walls, man. I could just hide my front
but
stage,
At least,
completely.
yeah, at least the front, Paul.
I
Hmm.
will say
because that's
that,
the problem I'm going to run into. My back wall is not very deep, so I can't hide the speakers back there unless I want to lose 8, 9 more inches of my theater. Maybe a foot more of my theater, and I'm not willing to give that up. So those speakers are probably going to be mounted on speaker mounts on the back wall for me. Or I make some kind of just some kind of column or half column or something to hide the bookshelves that I have. Because I don't want to sacrifice that much extra room. But Calvin, you got a phenomenal theater here. I mean, it, it,
Yep.
it looks fantastic. I
Oh
love the
yeah.
color choice that you got. Let me ask you this, because I have light color seats and I was thinking about doing a light color carpet. Do you see reflections off of your carpet?
talking about as far as like as the light shine on it, like,
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, so the carpet is a gray. It was supposed to be black. Long story is gray, and I didn't feel like fighting them over it. But I feel like it worked out because it's a nice little contrast up in the room. It's not completely all the way dark.
It
Um,
Yeah.
looks it looks like a almost like a white, like a dull white
Like a
from
tannish
us.
color.
Yeah,
yeah,
Yeah.
like a
The way
it's
tan.
the light's hitting it.
actually it's actually a grayish color. It's like
Gotcha. Okay.
it's not as dark as the wall, but it's not as light as this picture is making it seem either.
Okay.
And
Okay.
Gotcha. Okay.
the light that I have in this room right now, which I got to get my lighting together, but it's like a 4500 or 5K light, so it's super bright too. So
I see.
I like the
I gotta find my
contrast.
light.
I do too.
Yep.
Yeah, I like
I
the
do too.
contrast.
But yeah,
Like
it's
I don't
Yeah.
not
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
even
not
though it's
not
like a
no offense to
silverish
everybody that
color.
just has a black hole theater. Whatever you
Mhm.
like is whatever you like. But I do like the contrast, like you said. I like to have it
I'll
up
offend
front.
all those people. I love that idea of doing the black hole for the first foot or two, for your dedicated theater. But to be honest, I mean, uh, uh, how many, for all the people that have their super high-end theaters, how many people and or movies do they really watch versus how many times do they talk about how amazing their theater is? Like, I watch movies all the time. I just watched the Blue Beetle last week, and a lot of people said that wasn't that good of a movie, but I was like, man, I really
That
like
was a
that
good
movie.
movie. Yeah,
Cool.
I like
Yeah,
that
I was
movie.
like, damn, that was one of my favorite Marvel movies to be, or
It
no,
was.
it's
Yeah.
DC. It's
DC,
DC. Yeah,
DC.
yeah, my bad. Yeah, it's a DC. I was like, man, that's one of my favorite ones. It had a really good storyline, and I don't know, it
Yep.
just
It
seemed.
was funny. Yep.
Yes. Yeah. And it was definitely heart wrenching. I was like, oh man, damn.
Yeah.
So yeah, I
Had
really
family
like that
aspect to
movie.
it. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
I enjoyed
Yeah,
it.
exactly. I really like
Yeah.
that movie.
So
I'm,
I
I'm
It's
I
funny
saving
thought I
I'm
was
because
saving
seeing
that
that
movie
same
for
color that you
when the
have,
theater's done.
Kelvin, on my walls, and to my surprise, I wasn't the one that had the paint mixed. I ended up with a deep dark Barney purple, I called it on the last show, but it actually came out pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty wild. Yeah. I don't know. I might just go with a gray that I have or that type of gray.
I like the
That seems
Yeah,
gray.
pretty.
I'll
Yeah.
tell you, gray usually would turn out better than black. To be honest, as someone who tried 3 different shades of black and just got tired of them and ended
yeah.
up with gray,
Gray gives
so
it
And what
that
The,
was
the,
wrong
gives
with
it
the
that
black? What
modern
was
kind
wrong
of
with the
feel
black?
to it. It's clean and the room
Yeah.
doesn't close in on you
it
as
just got,
much.
yeah,
Yeah.
just like Scott said, it closes it in you. And then black just kind of reveals any type of scuff, Mac or
Oh,
anything.
well, that's
You blow
Yeah.
dust somewhere and it's just like, you try to clean it up. It's
I
like,
had a black truck before, so I understand.
Oh yeah, the black
yeah, you
car,
will
yeah,
get
for sure.
tired of it
Yeah, I
quickly,
have
especially with
2
young
black
kids.
motorcycles, and I used to have a silver one, and I'm like, damn, I don't think I ever cleaned that silver one. I have to at least wipe off the black one every now and then. Like, oh,
I
yeah,
think the problem with the black is it could never look like velvet. So
Yeah,
therefore, the black is never right. So
yes.
the gray is always right because the
Yes, there's
black
no
is never right.
expectation with the gray. Yes, because
Yeah.
I ended up putting the velvet curtains in the room too. Because when you put black, you're expecting something, right? And
Mhm.
Right.
then
And that,
and then my screen had the I used the Seymour center stage. It does come with the black velvet borders, and no matter the black, I got the blackest one, Blackron or whatever from Sherwin Williams. I got the
The
blackest one from
Tricon, you
Home
got the
Depot.
Tricon black?
Yeah,
You tried the. Oh wow.
both of
Yeah.
them, you could still tell, both of them looked like gray to the
Yeah.
velvet on the projector screen. I was like, man, so I just bought some cheap velvet from Amazon and it's a perfect match. It's like,
Yeah.
I could have saved my money, man, wasting all
Yeah.
my money on paint, black paint. It worked. Yeah.
Mm.
I'm
You
loving them
didn't get
subs as
that.
well, man. What
I know.
what the subs look awesome in that room.
yeah, so the subs, those are stereo integrity 24s, and I had a guy in Florida, I can consider him actually a buddy now, built them for me and shipped them to me, the actual box. A guy named Charles
Oh, I gotta
King.
plug in my phone.
He's been, on the forums on AVS, and he works with Stereo Integrity a lot now on building enclosures. So it was almost cheaper for me to get him to build them and have them shipped here versus I could have got it done for cheaper here, but to have someone who knows this speaker, who builds a lot of them and get it done right. So he built them for me and he
We
shipped them
had a
to me.
very similar conversation about that type of situation where, like, I think was it you or it was someone else about speaker stands, right? And
Hmm.
I came in tail end, and I'm always the cheapskate. So someone asked me, "Oh, what do you advise?" Right? And we ended up circling around to where I was like, "Well, in that scenario, I would probably buy." And then it ended up being we asked Chuck literally, what would you charge to build that? You know what I'm saying? As a professional, not a
Hmm.
buddy, not someone you know. What
Hmm.
would you charge? And that's when you look at, oh, well, a third, you buy a product that's mass produced. How much would someone, and that's a good idea a good way to see how much you're getting ripped off, right? Hey, here's a mass produced product. It may seem expensive. Okay, well, let me go to a third party. How much would you charge me to do this? If it's more, then you know, oh, I'm not getting ripped off. Versus, okay, how much time am I willing to spend? Now, the thing that a lot of people forget is like, as a, someone that's very, penny pinching, it's like, sure, you can do it yourself, but are you going to get the quality? And sometimes you buy stuff and it's like, oh, I paid so much for this and it's just not quite perfect. But if you're doing it yourself, it's not going to be, oh, there's this one little thing off. It's, oh God, this looks like shit compared to, or you're going to spend 2 or 3 times, you know, redoing it. So you're going to spend 5 times as much time doing something. There's a trade-off, and you have to find out. Like for me, I did like some resin tables and stuff like that, and it's expensive. Resin isn't cheap. And if you make a mistake, well, okay, there's $100 worth of resin that I'm ripping out and throwing away. And then
Yeah.
but you're learning. You have to be willing to, hey, I'm going to be enjoying it or learning from the experience if you're doing DIY. So DIY is great. It's fun. I love it. I'm more of a DIYer, but it's not always the answer. And
No,
Yep.
I
absolutely
love
not.
the fact
Especially
that,
with this
That
type of
I
speaker
agree with.
here, you
yeah,
have
and
to
I love
put
the fact that
you
you
have to
found
put like
someone that's
four
willing to do
baffle.
that.
I looked at this. You have to
Yeah.
put like 4 pieces of 3/4 inch plywood for the baffle for these type of speakers, a minimum of 3. So I mean, you're really stacking to build this box here. So
Yeah, you got to
because I
know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
mhm.
And
If
if
you're
you're
building
doing
your
it,
own, if you're building your own stuff, then you could say yes. But if you're hiring out to do something to build a stand, you might as well just buy the stand. It's what it comes down to
Right.
because it's gonna match the speaker. It's going, everything. The weight of the bass is gonna be proper.
yep,
Hmm.
yep, yeah, exactly,
And so
exactly. There's,
one way that I kind of look at things like this is like, I'm not knocking any company. I think a lot of companies are doing really good work now. Like you have a company, RBH, they have a 21
Hmm.
inch sub now, which is a very nice looking sub. It does, and the company that makes that sub is called Pierce Audio. Pierce Audio makes really good subs. So RBH is getting a sub from Pierce Audio, and then I'm not for sure if Pierce Audio is building them one with their specific, details that they want on it, and RBH is putting it into an enclosure, and they're doing some cool stuff where they're adding some type of deadening material weight, inside of the enclosure, but that sub is like $10,000, which for a lot of people, it's not a problem, right? Like that's what they want, and they want to get it right, and not have to think about it, so they are willing to pay that. But on the flip side, I can buy this subwoofer for, I think it was right at like $1,300, $1,400 just for the
For the
sub.
driver. Right.
Yes, for the driver, and then for let's say one enclosure, I think that one enclosure was roughly 700 or 600, somewhere around. I think it was like 700. I had to go back and look, but I think it was like 700. And then so now you're at like 13, fourteen
Two
hundred
grand.
for two enclosure, and then shipping was like 500. We did the whole you ship thing where you find somebody that's coming this way, you put it up on a board, somebody select it, boom. So all in all, for these subs, let's say, 14 plus 14, 28, and then so 4,800 out the door for two of them, right? And then You get you an amplifier. You look at another, depending on which route you go, $700 to $1,000, and so it's a extremely good bang for your buck if you're willing to do some of the particulars. And especially right now, you have companies like GSG, where they'll build the box, they'll put the sub in it, and they will ship it to you. So you don't even have to go through trying to outsource. And you may pay a little bit more, but you still will be nowhere near the cost of going to a retail shop to actually buy
Right.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
because I
again, I'm
think
not,
the
not
Yeah.
per listen,
And
dual
again,
15s are like 10 grand for
yeah,
one
it's 10
sub.
grand. I'm
yeah.
like, come
Well,
on
and
now.
and
That's
and that's
that's
These are
crazy.
subwoofers.
and the
These
thing
are
is
subwoofers.
not to diminish, manufacturers and stuff like that. Because you got to remember, there's a lot of engineering. It's all, like the per listen. Those are amazing speakers, and they have a lot of engineering, and you got to pay all the engineering,
The R&D,
Hmm.
yeah.
R&D,
people
yep.
that are, you know, giving that 1% or 2% gain. Now, we don't see that right now, but in 20 years, every little gain adds up because, just like me in car audio, like some of the processing and stuff like that, like back whenever I was into it, that's like $200 now. It was like 3 or 4 grand
Yeah,
back
yeah.
then. And I'm like,
Hmm.
what? My mind is like, oh my God, I could make my stuff sound way better now. But now I'm like, I don't care about my car audio because I'm not out, cruising the strip all the time trying to show off. I'm, going to the grocery store. That's about it. But yeah, all this stuff. But the DIY community I really love because it really, gets
Yeah.
people together and it's fun. And if you were local, like if you live next to Chuck, dude, you pay him a couple grand to build a speaker, I can guarantee you that thing's going to look better than anything mass produced. You're going to be like, oh.
Yeah,
Yeah,
DIY and a
yeah,
sub is
definitely.
different than DIY and a stand, speaker stand.
Yeah,
I,
yeah,
I
that's
can
true.
understand buying the sub like that,
Yep.
because it's a lot more, like you said, you get a lot more bang for your buck,
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, you have to know the cubic foot that driver needs, to perform the way it
Yeah.
needs. You have to,
Yeah,
so you got to
and
build the
that's the
box to
thing.
specs, right?
Well,
Yeah,
but
that's what I
that's the
mean. You
thing.
got these companies, that's what they do, you know?
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah, so this
Well, and
guy
a
right here that I
woodworker,
got up
if
on the
you
screen,
tell
like
someone that knows
Charles,
dimensions,
yeah, he
he will
will.
know
I
it
mean, he
off
will,
the top of his
like,
head.
he will build for you anything that you want. You just give him the actual driver and tell him what you're trying to do, and he can either put it in Winsit and come up with the actual driver size, or if you already know, and he would get it done. So he does a really
Yep.
good job as far as building subs. I'm sure the box he built for me are probably in here somewhere. So that's who built the subs for me. I know someone had asked earlier about the acoustic panels.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was
Um,
going to ask you that. So we're going to segue to that because, look, some
yeah,
people think that they can do DIY, do it yourself,
and these
panels,
were the
but you
reference
chose
ones
to
I'm
go
talking
to
about.
you chose to go the gig route. What made you choose to do that rather than building them yourself? And what package did you wind up going with?
Well, same thing. I looked at DIY, just regular panels. I could probably do that at a fairly much cheaper route. But then when we looked at, okay, I wanted to kind of have a modern, sleek look to it. So by the time you get into adding slats or adding some type of diffusion, then the skill level goes up. And I'm honest, like
Hmm.
I'm not Chuck, right? So I don't have the skill, nor I don't like I'm not gonna be able to do it long enough to get real skilled at doing it. So I look at my time and how much effort to go into it to maybe get a product that's gonna make me wanna pull out my hair or something. So I decided to
Yeah.
just go with GIK because honestly, GIK prices are not bad. Like when you think about the
They are
whole
not.
thing all together, they have pretty good pricing. At all, then GIK is not bad at all.
No, it's
So
not.
what I
I've done the math and I've done my own DIY, and it's really pretty negligible. And when you get into
So these right here is what I'm going with on my side wall. Every seminar that Anthony Gramani has ever gave, I listen to a lot
Let me
of
stop sharing my
aficionados.
screen so that you can share your screens for what
Did I mix it
you
up?
have. I think this is my screen, but
Oh,
I'll go
okay.
ahead and
My
Feature
bad.
stop sharing
product.
mine.
Yeah.
Okay.
There we go.
I got
Go
you
ahead and
now.
share his screen. There we go.
Yeah, so pretty much I've listened to just about everyone, Matthew Pose, Anthony Gramati, everyone speak about diffusion and over since 2020, 2021. And I went back and forth on what I wanted to do. And what I came up with was using something like this. That's a combo panel. So these slats is like a one, well, it's like a 2D type of diffusion. So, but it has a 2 inch Azora up on the back side of it. So this is what's going to be on my side wall. So the way I'm gonna do it is in the front section before you get to the front wides, there's going to be two on the left and two on the right, and then in between the front wide and the between the front wide and the surround, there's going to be two more. And then in between the surround and the back wall, there are going to be two more. So on my left side, it's going to have 6 panels, and on my right side, it's going to be 4 panels, and that's because that I have that door right there. So I'm still thinking about what I'm gonna do with that door section, but that's why I'm gonna have 6 on the left and I'm gonna have 4 up on the right. And then on my and then these are stainable. So the way that GIK sell them is they just sell it with the bare wood, and you can stain it to whatever color that you want to stain it to.
Oh wow.
So
I was just gonna
um,
ask that. Can you stain those?
yeah.
Yeah,
So
it looks like they
and
have
that's
them on
one thing.
sale too right now.
Yeah. So right now the 4 inch is yes,
It's on sale.
the sorry, the 4 feet is 109. Like you cannot beat that. Like you get out in that garage, start ripping wood and trying to build panels and put it together. And I even looked at, like you know how you got the companies now that they just sell the actual slats already put together and they have this backing fabric to them. I looked at okay, what if I was to build a panel and then buy that and cut and put on? It still was more than this. So that's why I said, you know
Yeah.
what, I'm just gonna do
You
this and
you
do.
gotta already have the tools, already
Hmm.
have pretty decent. You don't even need to be an expert, but to me, there's certain things like I even bought another tool because I had a stapler and I was like every like 5 staples would like misfire and you got to put a lot of staples in these things. And I
Hmm.
got so pissed off that I went and bought a Milwaukee pneumatic stick. I was just like, oh, and I literally did. And that's the thing. Like, here's a simple example of like the tools and all this stuff. The time.
Hmm.
The moral of the story is how much is your time worth? I literally built, I think, 2 panels in X amount of time. I built 5 more panels after buying the pneumatic staple in the same amount of time because
Hmm.
my stapler just kept. I had this mechanical stapler that just kept kind of misfiring, and
Hmm.
it was older. It was time to replace it, but it was just annoying. Versus, I went from that to I was like, oh my god! But I
So
already had like
are you only
batteries.
getting the diffusers, or are you getting like bass traps and all that other good stuff?
So I'm doing these. These are combo panels, so they're going to absorb at the lower frequencies. They're going to still absorb some at the actual higher frequencies, but they're going to throw some energy back off into the room. And I mentioned earlier that I listened to a lot of people talk about this topic, and what I realized from listening to a ton of people talk about it was that if your speakers have really good directivity, which is a good off axis response, to where the off axis is just like the on axis for the most part. You don't need to absorb everything, right? And you can afford to send some energy back into the room. And so it took me a long time to kind of come to that conclusion. And I say, you know what? I'm gonna put my money where my mouth is at, and I'm gonna try it out. to see if it worked. If for whatever reason it doesn't work, I can take the two off the front wall, and then I can just put some absorbers there, and I can do something else with those two. So that's pretty
Yeah,
much
I mean,
what's
look,
going to be.
Germani says, the way he likes to set his system up, he'll do in the first reflection, he'll do an absorber on one side and he'll do a diffusion on the other. So
Hmm.
I don't think you're wrong in looking
Yeah.
at doing it that way at all.
See, and I have I'm a little argumentative on this, only because it's me. I totally 10% of people need only absorption. I have no problem with diffusion, but the real reason you do diffusion is to bring a dead room back to life. Room so much that they need diffusion. That's my personal stance on it. And the floor, the back wall, the front wall, and the ceiling. That is where if you did 30% on every single one of those spaces, yeah, you probably would need some diffusion. Now, the one thing that I will never argue with, diffusion is a lot sexier. There is no way.
I was just gonna
Straight
say,
up,
like,
if
you look
you're
at the
going,
skyline ones. Come on, those are so
period,
cool.
that's the reason I would say, well, yeah, you need a couple of those, because otherwise you just got a bunch of black panels on the wall.
Well,
That's boring as all get out.
to my
But
understanding, it also spreads spreads the sound out some also, so you could get a
Yes.
wider sound stage by having
Yes.
diffusion.
There's a video I found. This guy with there's a guy that
how do
he
you
has
get a
these models of
wider
showing it.
how do you get a wider sound stage? See, that's where someone said something on a forum, that how do you get a wider sound stage from a reflection? Because that's what diffusion is. It's a reflection. And what are we calling wider sound stage? These are the type of comments that just drive me, like, what do you mean wider sound stage? Like, are you saying you hear an instrument on the left clearly and you hear an instrument on the right clearly? That's only going to come from the source point. It ain't getting any wider than the source point, which is your speakers. Period. There's just, you're not, otherwise you're saying, oh, you don't want to absorb. If you're saying you get in a wider sound stage from reflecting, aka diffusing the sound in other directions, that's like saying, oh, you don't want room treatment. And that's like a contradiction in basic
Well,
physics, because that's what diffusion versus absorption. You have to understand the basics. What does absorption do? It basically absorbs the sound, like sponges it and holds it back as much. Diffusion scatters it in random spots. How are you
correct.
getting a wider sound stage?
Because
So maybe
exactly
it's
what you
the
just said,
maybe
you're
it's the
scattering it
scatter
in
plot
spots that it wouldn't
that
be
is
So
at.
you're
supposedly
saying because
wider.
because you're getting more echo in other spots?
I
Is that what
guess.
you're wanting? Because that's that again. Sure,
Yeah,
you could call that a wider sound stage, but some people would say, yeah, that's echo. You're
there's a
putting the sound in
It's
multiple
a
different
reflection, like you
places.
said. I'm not disagreeing
Yeah.
with you.
Yeah, it's like that. That's why I'm like, but they'll use these terms like, oh, you get a wider sound stage because that sells better. Now, what they should just say is, hey, look at this A, and then look at that. That right there, that is sexy as shit compared to just plain panel.
Yeah,
That
it
right
is.
there, I would pay an extra $100 a
so
panel for. That looks
so
amazing.
so like these right here are going to go on the actual back wall. So what I have is I have two of these that's going to go. One is going to be on one side of on the outside of the rear channel on the left, and another one is going to be on the outside of the rear channel on the right. and then in between of the rear channels. So these are 2 feet by 4 feet essentially.
Right.
I got three of the. I think I got three or four of the 1 feet by 4 feet, and instead of having them going vertical, I'm gonna have them going long ways. At least that's the plan right now, is to have them going sideways in between the actual rear speakers, just to give it a different look.
Yeah.
And
So the thing that I question about these panels is what exactly is that pattern doing, right? Is that a pattern that's been tested to actually uh, do,
Oh
do
man,
what the fusion?
don't. GIK, their
yeah, like for
prices
instance, I
and
got
your labor. I'm telling you, because like I said, I built all mine, and I'm like,
A lot of
damn, if
work.
I didn't
so
enjoy the
like so like
process, I would be
I
pissed.
purchased, let me see, 6, 4, so that's 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. It was either 15 or 16 panels. The shipping was like $180.
That's not bad.
Now,
But you're
like
in
to me,
Texas. They're in
yeah,
Texas
I'm in
also.
Texas, yeah. And so I feel like that's not bad because they can easily add $10 to every product or $20 to every product.
What
But
area of
it's like,
Texas are you in?
and I'm in DFW. I'm not that far away from Ike.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
I need to
one
stop
thing
by,
that
man.
John
We need
Anthony
we
had
need
an
to
issue
stop by.
with is with GIK is that he lives in San Antonio, and he said that he could easily, have went to go pick up these acoustic panels, but they wouldn't even allow him to do it.
Yeah, they won't let you, man. Even in
Well,
Dallas, I
now,
don't think.
I think that they have changed it. I seen it on their website where you can
Eh,
pick them up and you can waive the shipping if you go pick them up.
shit,
So
let
I
me
don't
know,
know,
man. We could go pick it up together. I'll go pick up. I'll buy some too. I'll go pick
man.
it up.
They're in
By the
Georgia,
time we
right?
drive there and stuff, we're going to spend the same
They're
amount
In,
of money.
they're
hey,
in Dallas, man.
in their
In
defense,
Georgia or wherever, man.
even though
Yeah,
they're not
Georgia's
as
that's their
heavy,
height.
they're big in size.
Yeah,
They
they
take
take
up
up.
a lot
Yeah.
of they take up a lot of UPS trucks. So, and you
Okay.
know what?
Think about
Real
this.
estate is
Bro,
money.
people buy generators and houses on Amazon, man. They don't even charge you that much.
But you got to think about it.
That tells you how
Amazon
much
has a subscription.
overpriced they're
You know what I'm saying?
charging you.
Yeah, I mean, Amazon has a subscription. The money is baked into the cost of the product. We just went through that. Unless you're doing this at high scale for the price that GIK sell it for,
Yeah,
you can't afford to do free shipping. Now, I bet there's a lot of other companies that I looked
yeah.
at. I'm not gonna call out any names, but they're a lot more expensive than GIK. So,
Yeah, I
the
mean,
shipping is the shipping, and it's
yeah,
just it is what it
yeah. You
is.
don't have to
Those
do
ones you putting in
You
the
don't have
back,
to do
they're
free
4 inches
shipping.
thick. Are the ones you putting in the
Yes,
back going to be 4 inches?
yes, I got the ones that were 4 inches.
Nice. Yeah,
Okay.
you're gonna like that. Yeah, your
And the
room,
side ones
I
are going to
can
be two
tell, is
inches.
good.
Yes,
The
2 inches.
side slats are going to be 2 inches.
Yes, 2 inches.
Okay.
One thing I didn't know that they have is go ahead and pull my screen up.
I was like, by the time I buy all this stuff, I might as well get
Well,
GIK.
and I will tell you this right now, as someone that did all of mine. If you do not have an electric stapler, which is going to
Buy
run
one.
you 30 to 50 by that, because you will spend so. I got that friggin' 500-pound. He's probably doing like he's probably like, yeah. But yeah, I'm
I
telling
know
you,
when I
those
did
are a
the
pain.
fabric underneath the couch when I put the transducers in it, I did it with a mechanical stapler. By the time I was done, I was like, man, an electric
Yeah, and
one would
you
have
have
been
to put
very
a
nice.
lot of staples in these things. Like you really should be doing it like almost every 4 inches to get it to look good. And then you also have to know if you don't if your Christmas wrapping doesn't look amazing, do not do DIY. I can tell you that right now. Like Don, you commented on some of my,
Mine's is
like
horrible.
you were like, "Wow, you did an amazing job there." I'm like, "Dude, I'm like a pro at Christmas wrapping, and so I can make things look
Dude,
amazing."
if
And
if I
you have to use all that skill when you're doing a panel with cloth, and you've
dude,
got to do it
if
just
I
right.
invite you to my home and your concern is how smooth my acoustic panel is, you can leave, man. You can leave.
Hey, you know what? Hey,
It's not
you
the
know,
projector screen; it's the acoustic panel. You can leave, bro. You go to your house in the
So
morning and
are
look
you
at your
getting
own
any other
panels.
kind of panels? Are you getting any other kind of panels?
Any
like
bass
No,
cloud
traps?
channels or anything
so
like
that's
that.
it because okay, so I was checking it out again, listening to a lot of people talk, and like how my ceiling goes up and how it's not at like the lower your ceiling is, the more you need to reflect. I mean, you need to like treat it, sorry. And so at the angle that it goes up, I just don't see, yes, it's going to have some reflections, but like I say, the off axis response is good on those Kef speakers. I don't think I need to put any money there up in the ceiling. And then
Yeah.
I'm going to eventually put two more subs in the back of the room just so I can have four and just be able to account for a lot more with EQ. And I want to get
Crush it.
into MSO, and use MSO to really make everything even. So I'm just going to do two more subs and then that'll be my bass traps, just having four.
So for those that
Four
don't know
subs.
what MSO is, can you enlighten us on that?
Yeah, so MSO is called multi sub optimizer. And what it does is normally when you go into Rue and you try to, EQ an actual subwoofer, you're trying different things out with delay and phase and whatnot to try to get it to play nice with each other and then integrate to the actual main speakers. MSO does that for you. So it's not easy per se from what I have seen. I haven't did it yet, but it essentially you would take these measurements, put in certain settings, and the MSO will run. You can tell it to run for 1 minute, 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, however much time you want it to spend trying to figure out what is the best combination of curves and timing to input into your EQ to get the best response. It is my understanding that Dirac and especially the waveforming from Trinov is doing something similar. It's just that the direct base, whatever the latest thing is that they have, instead of it running for 1 hour, 2 hours, or whatever, they have data from multiple rooms they have put in to where they can essentially tell you what's going to be best within a certain period of time and not having to run for extremely long time. Waveforming is different because waveforming does something similar, but waveforming can also send back certain things in the room to cancel out certain frequencies. So waveforming is really advanced, and that's something that Trinoff does do that I think if you really wanted the pinnacle of bass, it's probably be worth the money, but I haven't heard it yet, so I can't really say. But that's essentially what MSO does. Sorry, I went all the way around the circle,
No, you're
uh,
good, man.
No, you're
Appreciate
but
the
good.
information.
Appreciate it.
I did, to contradict that because that's what I do.
Yeah,
I did,
Paul is the
well,
MSO expert.
yeah, I did MSO and I had what read as literally a perfectly flat line. I'm talking like it was literally a 0.25 dB up or down.
mhm.
And I was like, I don't know. It just doesn't sound right. And I just got rid of it. And the MSO is not user friendly
Yeah, that's the
but
thing about it. Yeah.
it's not difficult. Um, Once you understand how the application works, it's actually fairly easy. The difficult part is you literally need to take a minimum of you should do a minimum of 4 measurements for each subwoofer at each
Um.
location
So
that you're doing. So
So
you
did you
can like
find that?
I'll have like 36 measurements and then I'll do MSO.
Did you
It's
find
and
that
that's
MSO flattened it out too much? Like it didn't fall like it was fighting against what your room wanted to do,
yeah,
or like what?
basically and that's kind of where and I'll plug Magic Beans Joe Q thing. Yeah, literally it was like, "Oh yeah, if you measured my room, you would be like, "Oh, you must have amazing bass." And And I was like, oh, yeah, I have amazingly flat bass. And that is exactly how it sounded. Flat.
There
Where
was
once I
there
was like,
was
yep, let me just get rid of that. Let me just go back to my car audio days. Let me just tweak
so
it to
when I was
what it is.
researching, I found this post in a forum where this guy was talking about it. It was someone else that had a very similar problem, and this guy was saying that, and I can't remember, but I think I screenshotted it. I need to find it. He was saying that there's a certain setting that you have to select so that that won't happen. Like you're essentially giving it the ability to, or telling it not to do it flat or to go all out versus try to tame the room, I guess. But I need to find it. It was a certain setting because there was other people that were complaining about the same thing, and this guy was saying that no, you need to do this this certain setting when you do it, and that goes back to what you were saying about MSOs that
Well,
it's not user friendly, as
there's
far as like.
tons of settings in there, and I don't know what setting they're talking about, but you can restrict how much it actually, uh, like your plus, your minus, your
Mhm.
PEQ restrictions. You can literally
Hey guys,
go in
I'm
there
gonna have to
and
check
change
out
it.
right now.
Oh, you're out, Chuck?
Mr.
All
Chuck,
right.
Yeah.
appreciate you.
Good,
We're
good to
we're
see you,
not
Chuck.
far behind you here, but yeah, thanks for joining the podcast today. Appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, man.
Oh, no
Good to
problem.
see you.
Glad to be
Good to
here.
see you again, man. And I'm
I'll
gonna
s-
Yeah.
try to make it on Monday again, but
I'll
I've been
see
so
I'll
busy
see you in
lately.
about maybe about 12 hours or so to
Yeah.
There
drop
you
off
go.
your late Christmas present for you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah. Just text me what time we're gonna meet.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah. So getting back to the multiple sub, optimizer,
Hmm.
I was watching Youth Man on Sunday. I usually tune into the AV experience where they answer a bunch
Mhm.
of questions and everything else. And they actually had Aaron from Aaron's Audio Corner on there, and he was the first one
Who,
to
who's
the
that?
guy
I've
that's
never
all
heard of that.
about the guy that's all about measurements, right? He was the first
That
one to say, "Hey, look, it's not all about the measurements, right?"
short guys
So
usually like to measure twice. He's always trying to measure, see if it gets bigger.
so yeah, so even he mentioned that it's you yes, you have the measurements, and yes, they're but it's not always what people like, right? So
Well,
you
Mhm.
I
could
mean,
be
That's
I
true.
searching for
measured
the
flat.
flattest speaker in the world.
That was my point. It's like I don't care what setting is or isn't in MSO. I could do a measurement in 3 different listening positions, and it measured flat as a pancake. Now my fourth one, that one got a little wonky, but I was like, it just doesn't. It's just not. I don't. I'm not digging it. I'm just not digging
Yeah.
it.
Gotcha.
And you know what? I could probably pull that up and show it off. Oh, look at how flat my bass is, and people would be like, "Oh, your room sounds amazing. I bet." And I'm like, "Nope." Well, I
Yeah,
wouldn't say
Yeah,
that.
Yeah, I
no,
if
I
don't.
mean,
you
look,
so if you're running sealed and potted subs, is it a good tool? Isn't it a good tool for that?
It
Or
is a good tool, definitely, to match your mains and your subs. But again, it's only if you have at least 3 subs. And here's okay. Here's my contradiction. 2 subs, you don't really need it. 3 subs, you could use it and take advantage of it. 4 subs, you don't even really need EQ that much.
so you're already covering the space.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
because even like
so
even
when does it come
whenever I
into play?
ran Rue with just the 224, it's like it looked really good. It looked, it
Well,
just
I mean,
looked
you
bad.
do need to make sure that the phase and all that are
Yeah.
aligned,
Yeah,
because if
yeah,
not, they'll
you got to
cancel
do time
themselves out.
alignment. It is definitely better at that than your default route time alignment
Hmm.
and stuff like that.
Right.
So, especially
Yeah,
with
because
your
if you
main.
go to 4 subs, chances are you're going to be sitting. Yes, it'll help
Yeah,
get rid of the null,
it's
but
not worth all those measurements. I'll just say it bluntly in MSO if you already have 4 subs properly placed. you are not going to get that much benefit from it.
Yeah.
If you do 4
Yeah.
subs, you're going to only need to EQ maybe a couple little 1 or 2 dB here or there.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to try out
It's fun, but that's
Joe's
just it. I'm
Magic
not saying don't do it.
Beans.
Yeah,
He asked me about doing a beta, so I'm probably gonna reach out to him this week to try to check it out because because right now in my system, all I'm doing for EQ is I have Odyssey ran up to 300 hertz, and that's it. I let the speakers do anything past that, and that sounds fairly good.
So you put the curtain at 300 hertz.
hmm
Oh, well,
There's
that's actually pretty low because most people put it around
it is
put the
pretty
curtain
low.
up around 800 hertz or so.
It's usually 500 hertz.
there's a
800.
there's a calculator online that I found that would
You
tell
gotta have a
you
much larger room for
that would
that.
tell you what is the make sure I'm pronouncing it right Schroeder
Mhm.
frequency, I think, and
Schroeder,
it would tell you
Schroeder.
for your room what is that frequency. And for my room, it
Schroeder
says it's
frequency.
200 hertz, but I went up to 300, and so that's why I said it there.
Yeah, but the only way the calculators online only assume perfect
Perfect walls and everything. Yeah.
walls.
hmm
The only way to do it is exactly what Aaron said last week. You do like multiple measurements with Rue just within a
hmm
certain space, and when you do that, see where the frequency changes, and then you literally
hmm
know exactly what your Schroeder
hmm
frequency is. And he
Gotcha.
explained it very simple and well because he knows all the fancy names and jargons.
hmm
I
Yeah,
could just do it for
he definitely
myself.
did a
I
great
don't know
job
how
of
to explain it to someone else. It's like I don't
hmm
know. I just do it. Like,
he definitely does a great job of making someone like myself not too intelligent in this field. He dumbed it down for us in a good way. He
very good
knows
skill
this
set that
stuff
I do
inside
not
and out.
have.
And
He did a great
make
job.
sure you guys go over to Aaron's Audio Corner if you're interested in
Yeah.
measurements and speaker measurements and
I like the
he
way he did his center channel explanation. That's probably one of my favorite videos because he really
hmm
put it, as much as layman's terms as you can with something very engineering oriented. He really did a good job at that. So that was one of my favorite of his videos with the MTM speaker explanations and stuff that everybody has. But I would still argue that people really hear the difference in that friggin'.
Well,
I'm telling you,
we're going
most
to end it
people.
on that note, on that controversial note. Mr. Calvin, we definitely appreciate you joining. Hey, you have a fantastic theater. I love the look at the theater. I look
Yep,
forward to
I love
having
it.
you back on when you get your GIC acoustics hung, and you get everything updated in there with what you
And I
want to
want to
do as
know.
far as your center channel and possibly moving some speakers around. So you have the link. You're welcome back. Come join us next week. Just sit in and
Yeah.
come be a part of the festivities that we have here. And same
I
goes
want
with
to know
everybody
when
else.
he's doing.
If you'd like
I
to
want to know
be
when he's doing
a
his LED lighting and light show because everyone has to have fancy LED lighting shows, and especially in that dark
absolutely.
room, man.
Speaking of
You
that,
could.
I'm going to get you to help me with colors and stuff like that. I'm going to give you a template because I know that you and Ton are trying to kickstart something here.
Yeah,
So
we can do. Yeah, we're pretty good at designing. We have a designer eye,
I need
as
one too, so
cynical as I am.
count me in. I need one too. I need
we'll
some light
promote that on
design.
another show. But if anyone in the audience, thank you guys for hanging in. Appreciate it. We've had up to like 40 people today and 23 watching right now. So thank you guys for hanging in for this extra long episode 11. If you'd like to be a guest on the show, please email us at hometheaterhublive@gmail.com. Please don't forget to subscribe to Ike's channel. What's your channel, Ike? Give yourself a plug.
Easy HD Tech.
Easy HC Tech. And make sure you check out Scott's channel. He's got a entertaining look on audio. Really enjoy Mr. Wiggles, and we broke that out
One of
last
my
week. If you guys
favorites.
didn't see it,
One of my
make sure
favorites.
you go back and check out that episode. We definitely had some fun. So make sure you go over. It's SC Audio. SC Audio.
Audio.
Go
That's
check out his
spelled,
channel,
yeah.
Scottio, however you want to pronounce it.
I
Make sure you
pronounce
check
it
out
SC
Horizon
Audio.
Home Theater.
It's Scottio.
Make sure you
Yep,
like
thank you.
Scottio. It's perfect, is what it is. So
Yep.
thank you everyone for tuning in. By all means,
And thanks,
please.
Kelvin, for showing up, man. You're a cool dude.
Yeah.
No
Thanks,
problem.
Colin.
I'll tell you
That
that.
was awesome.
Thanks for having
Thank
me.
you everyone. Have a
Thank
great
you.
day.
See you next week.
Have a good one.
Bye.
All right.